Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Me once was lost, but now me found. Was blind, but now me see.
Grace, teach me how to fear the Lord, and grace me fears relief. How precious did that grace appear the hour me first believed.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Me once was lost, but now me found. Was blind, but now me see.
Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? Whose love is mighty and so much stronger? The King of glory, the King above all kings. Who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder? The King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.
I don't know much, but this much I do. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God.
Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan our son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory. Who rules the nations with truth and justice? Shines like the sun in all of its brilliance.
And just like that, we're live. Good Sunday evening, ladies and gentlemen. 19th of October. We are starting fast. We already have the two VIPs in the house, Daily COVID, and of course, Jordan, Open Your Eyes UK. Gentlemen, come on, say hello.
Oh, you're too kind. VIP now. Love it. Hello, people. Hello, Manny. Open Your
Hello,
Eyes
everybody.
UK. Everybody.
Hello,
back.
everyone.
All right, brilliant. All right, so I've been really looking forward to this show, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I just want to address this comment by Fox. Fox, there's ways of advertising a live stream before it goes live. So one of the ways you can advertise it is to get likes, and the reason why you would do that is you can get promoted better on the algorithm on YouTube. So because I don't do regular live streams anymore, my live streams don't get shown in people's bell and the rest of it. So a way around that, according to a marketing team that works with me on another project, is to do it this way. So that's why you'll always find a little bit more likes than what you would expect on this channel. On the other one is different. I've got a bit more subscribers, but here we advertise it. We advertise the live stream, so the algorithm sees it in a different way. All right, so I wanted to address that. So, gentlemen, the reason why I'm looking forward to this live stream, not obviously we have some great guests coming on, great speakers, but the problem with a lot of the time with those speakers, those guys, is that they like a bit of an argument, they like a bit of heated exchange, they like a bit of to and fro, which is brilliant for the listener, but unfortunately you don't really get to exchange and share the information that's really going to help the listener in the long run. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally understand. Yeah. We'll be on our best behavior.
But having said that, Daily COVID and Raj had an exceptional conversation that time when Daily COVID first came on. I thought that was a good exchange. I thought there was a good level of conversation and to and fro.
Yeah, I feel like when it boils over and people start arguing and being rude, it's usually someone who's purposely instigating that. And we know the group most likely to do that. So we'll be on our guard tonight, Manny. We'll be looking out for those troublemakers on the horizon, and we will be trying to quell the flames before they start reaching defeat.
All right, so I think Jordan, are you going to do a starter prayer for us? Is that something that you have something planned, or shall we move on to the first point of the agenda?
I've got one here for you, Manny. Is this mic working okay?
It's working perfectly, thank you.
Brilliantly. So I'll get headphones on, as you saw in that photograph where you said that I look like Eddie the Eagle Edwards.
Sorry.
See, I like to think of it with my glasses on, more of a Superman thing. When they come off, I'll become Superman.
You can think of anything you want, mate. But the truth of the matter is, in that particular photograph, you did look like Eddie the Eagle. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to have to try skiing tomorrow and see if I can pick that up. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Why he couldn't ski either.
Sandy's looking at me and with a horrified face at the moment. Me skiing. I don't even like the snow. Anyway, right, I'll do this one for you then, okay?
Okay.
Heavenly Father, in these uncertain times, we seek your comfort. When we are seeing shadows in the world and the fear is risen, remind us in our hearts you are sovereign. Anchor us in your promise. Make us beacons of your light. Trusting you are with us always. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right. Thank you very much for that, Jordan. Why is prayer important?
Why is prayer important? It's communication with the ultimate creator.
So is it like giving him permission?
There's a million ways to answer that, depending on what you're looking for. Like, I feel like the main thing with prayer is you're just getting out your emotion to make yourself more calm because you've said your bit to God, and then even though God already knows, you've just made him extra specially aware of what the specifics are of your life.
Is it also a bit of giving God permission to intervene in any aspect of your life? So you asking him for help and therefore giving him permission over your free will to intervene?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So it's quite, in that case, it's very important. But I tell you what, the power of repentance and how that cleans up inside each one of us, I think, is truly magical. And I think if people just practiced repenting and asking for forgiveness and also forgiving others, that would be enough evidence for people to realize how magical being on the right side is.
Definitely.
That's the name of the game, brother. No one's perfect. We've all got a lot to forgive other people for, but then again, we've got a lot to be forgiven for ourselves. Not one man is
100%.
righteous. Apart
So
from
how?
God.
So Daily COVID, how did you become to be Christian? What did you go through? What's your story?
Okay, you're putting me on the grill straight away. So I was actually for my sins, I was a skanky atheist. I was a vegan, liberal, lefty vegan. I used to go to conferences and I used to say, God's not real, religion's not real. The evidence is clear on this. We've looked everywhere, we've not found. So you must be indoctrinated on drugs or super special if you believe in a God, and you're obviously wrong. And this is evil. This is a detriment to you and the world, and you should definitely stop. I was very successful at this. And I had a project, I had a website, and for several years I was saying, I will prove God is nowhere. I will prove God is not real. And then the last place to look was inside of a prayer. And I went out fully expecting, wasn't going to find God. This would be this would be like my watershed moment. I was going to prove in front of everyone, God's not real. Did a prayer, met God, and promptly my career collapsed on the back of me saying, guys, we're all completely wrong here. God is actually real. And then that led me to a new career, which is the one I'm sitting in this chair doing right this very second.
Oh wow. Okay. So just can I just dig into that a little bit, because that's quite a testimony. Thanks for sharing that. So when you said you found God in a prayer, so what, just kind of drill into that a little bit deeper so we all understand what you mean by that.
Well, at the time, I didn't read a Bible, apart from I was picking out quotes to argue them in a kind of atheist context. So I wasn't aware of scripture. I had no faith. I was absolutely certain that God wasn't real. But I thought, you know, I'm a scientist, or at the time I thought I'd do this scientifically. So I prepared a prayer that I was going to say. I fasted for the day. I went out into like a kind of quiet outdoor spot. No distractions, left my phone at home. And I gave it respect. I gave it the same respect I gave all the other places that I looked for God in. And I was so sure that it was just me talking up to the sky. I remember the prayer that I did quite clearly. And I meant to say, Dear God. That was how I wrote it down, and memorized it. Dear God was how I was going to start. But then when I came to say the words, it came out, Dear Lord. So while I was saying it, kind of alarmed in the back of my head, like, what happened there? Why didn't you say, Dear God? That's what you were going to say. But it came out, Dear Lord, and I said, Dear Lord, please let me know if you are there. Am I wrong about you? If you're actually there listening to me, if you're here right now with me, give me some kind of a sign or some obvious, undeniable signal that you are there and that you are sovereign Lord, the creator of the universe, a divine, loving being who cares about me, and just reassure me that despite politics, wars, and strife in the world, the society seemingly falling apart, let me know that everything's going to be okay and that I'm on the right track with you. Amen. And I hung around for like 20 minutes and I was met with what I can only describe as a complete miracle experience. Like, the sun came out. It was kind of a dour, rainy day. The sun came out, shone like a god beam kind of thing, like where I was sat. And, I had an interaction with what I say is Jesus appearing to me and speaking to me. And I was completely convinced. There wasn't a single doubt in me. Not a single doubt in me when this was happening to me, despite being a very gobby atheist, very opinionated atheist. It wasn't scary. It wasn't like fearful. Like, some people, when you think God appearing to you, you think this terrifying sort of horror experience is a huge, powerful creature that's going to crush you. You're on your knees begging for your life. It just wasn't like that at all. It was very reassuring. And the principal feeling that I felt was relief. I thought, whatever I've done, it will be forgiven. And whatever is to come will be okay. That was the main thing for me. And I remember immediately after thinking, I need to earn God's forgiveness here. Like, he didn't tell me that I did. He didn't ask me to do that. It just naturally sort of happened. And I thought, I've been telling people that you're not real for like the longest time. I've been making a good case for it. I've convinced many people to leave their religions, to be an atheist. And I genuinely wanted forgiveness for that from God. I genuinely wanted God to recognize, like, I didn't know that it was wrong when I was doing that. I genuinely thought it was the right thing to do. I thought it was true. And if only I'd have done this prayer earlier, I would have known. And then that led to me becoming homeless, losing my flat, my health faltered, and some other stuff happened. I ended up in church. And then when I did my my second prayer at the altar as a homeless man, I said, God, I will give my life to you. The rest of my life is devoted to you now because I recognize you and I recognize what I was doing wrong. And that led me to here. That was about 11, 12 years ago now. So yeah, everything's gone pretty well since then, I've got to say. And here we are now talking about the big man himself.
Wow, fantastic. So I want Jordan to come in, but I'm just gonna back up Daily COVID story with my experience, and then we'll get Jordan to tell us how he reached here. But I have a very similar story to you, COVID. So I was perfectly happy going along, doing what I do every day. But I had kind of turned a corner, and I was trying to do more charity work, more helping people, and things like that. So I was looking into a issue somebody that I knew had, and the medical answers for that wasn't quite right. And then I came across a doctor over in America who was an atheist, and during his medical terms as a professional, he became very much religious because of what he had encountered by certain patients. And that led me to a sermon by a gentleman who's now passed, called Derek Prince. And at the end of that sermon, there was a prayer. Now, like I said, I had arrived to this sermon researching for somebody else, not for myself. So anyway, I was very interested in the video. So that was the first time I watched it. The second time I watched it again, and it was a case of, why don't you join in the prayer? And I half-heartedly did so. And nothing really happened. I just sat down, and the only change there was really that I wanted to kind of go through the whole process again, a dying, really burning desire. And I did it the third time thinking, well, what have I got to lose? And I kid you not, by the time I sat down, there was a lot of repentance and asking for forgiveness and forgiving myself. And by the time I sat down, I was a completely different person. I was definitely cleansed and renewed, whichever terminology you want to use, and I haven't been the same since in a good way. So a very similar story to yours, and I suppose what I've taken away from it is that the power of prayer, when you do it wholeheartedly, when you try to, you know, do it honestly and with dedication, which is essentially what you did, COVID, that, you know, things change. And if you're one of those atheists where you say, yeah, I'll pray, and you're not really doing it wholeheartedly, then nothing's going to change. You're not going to have that supernatural experience. In other words, where God reaches out. So with me, when I had this experience, then a lot of things stood out and stood in line. For example, Jordan, we have. So I instantly understood why Jordan had suddenly come into my life, because up until that point, he had clarified a lot of things in my head, answered a lot of questions, and also I remember when I interviewed Hatoun. During that interview with Hatoun, which was in 2019, she herself had clarified some things, and I ended that live stream with the conclusion that the whole country needs to turn to God. And I remember at the time thinking, where did that come from? It's like that was a bit thing. But to cut a long story short, when I sat down after that prayer, all these things was clarified in my head, and since then, I've known, not just with that instance, but other instances, the power of prayer, and I completely rely upon it. And God has given me so many things. I mean, I wasn't, I thought I was perfectly happy and achieving and the rest of it, but where God has led me now, since then is a whole new ball game, and I thank Him for that. Jordan, tell us.
Hello, mate.
Tell us your story, brother.
Mine all started. I went to Sunday school as a child. It was a decent Sunday school. I learned a reasonable amount of the Bible there. When I got to about 13, Sunday school got a bit boring and a bit drab, so I went into pirate radio. And as I got older, that stemmed into becoming a happy hardcore rave DJ. Where I played in clubs and I did parties, and life became one big party. Anyway, years later, I had the children, right? My boy, he must have been 4, 5, 6 years old, walked up to me and said, "Dad, is God real?" Right? And I didn't know how to answer him. I kind of said, "Well, I'll find out for you." And up to that point, I was a massive conspiracy theorist. Or, as you know, Manny, I don't like anything NASA does or anything. Everything seems to be theories and kind of leading to hiding God when you look at it, and none of it kind of made sense. So I started looking to try and see if I could find God. That's when I discovered all the archaeology and everything that we've got. We can literally prove the Bible with stone and the places, and it was amazing. And I started like looking at people like Kent Ovid and Ron Wyatt and Ken Ham and Derek Prince and people like that, and they were influential in teaching me the bits that I didn't know, and it all went together, and it started to click in that, hold on a second, all this is real. Right, during the same period, I was suffering with severe sleep paralysis. Every night I'd have nightmares and dreams, and they were terrifying. And I'd wake up every single night and I'd be frozen, totally frozen. I knew there was something above me. I never saw what it was, but I knew there was something there, and it was terrifying. Right. And one night I woke up in sweats with the same sleep paralysis. And once the paralysis went, I dropped on my knees and I asked for forgiveness. I asked to be saved from whatever this was. Right. And the next day I woke up and it was golden light. Everything was golden. There was rays of golden light coming into the living room. I've never experienced anything like it before or after. And everything had slotted in place. All the bits about the science theories made sense to me now, because now I understood that God made it all by word in just 6 days. His signature was everywhere, right? And from that day onward, I've never thought the same. Right, something changed in me that day.
So what was the trigger point then for the change? That, you know, like for COVID and I was a prayer. So what was your trigger point?
It was pure fear. Honestly, I dropped to my knees because of the sleep paralysis. Something was happening to me. I didn't understand it, but I knew it was potentially demonic, and it was horrible. And I fell to the floor onto my knees in fear. And I can't remember the exact words, but I know I asked for forgiveness. I asked to be saved. I asked for salvation. Please save me from this thing. And everything changed. Everything changed. From that day, I can't even remember having a dream. I've not had sleep paralysis, and I've not even had a dream. It's been 15 plus years now.
So, but then you became an ordained priest. So
Yes.
how did that take place? How did you reach that point? Because that's quite a point on your CV, mate.
Yeah. Well, loving vicars and being put through it. Right. The man himself retired now, so it's a shame the actual church is empty still. I'd love to take it over. I drive past it all the while, and I think, why is that still empty?
Why don't you?
I've actually put an application in, right, and I've had nothing back. You know how reliable the church is.
Yeah.
Bro,
Well, I
you
don't know.
what the church is like as well. They're very specific about like what particular belief sets that you have and your interpretations and stuff.
Yes.
If there's anything in there that they don't like, they just turn their back.
I'm very fire and brimstone, and I don't think they like that. They like love and
they don't.
everybody equal.
I feel like the church are very threatened by that because it will be popular. You know, as soon as you start preaching that at the pulpit, you'll quickly pick up speed, and then you're a threat to them.
100%. 100%.
But do it anyway. Absolutely do it anyway, man.
I also want to get into being a prison pastor. I've been thinking of that one for a long time.
Oh, he's brave.
I know, but I'm a heavily tattooed man, so I should be okay. mind you, saying that 1:30 in the morning last week, somebody tried to carjack me outside my own house. Right, there was a car acting really weird, driving on the grass and that outside the house. My wife said, if I was you, I'd go and move your car, right, because he looks like he's going to hit it. So I looked out the window, and this Muslim guy wrecked on what looked like balloon gas and alcohol, got out his car, started like wobbling around down the street, shouting up at the block next door. So I thought, I better go and get my car keys and move it, because he's going to reverse into it. I went outside. As I went outside and walked towards my car, he went, have you got such and such his phone number? And I said, I ain't got a clue who you're on about, mate. He says, yeah, you have. You've got his phone number. I said, no, I haven't. Opened my door, put my keys in the ignition. He grabbed my hand. He said, give me your keys. And I went, what do you mean, give me your keys? I'm going, right? And he said, I've got a gun in the car, which made me smile, because he was obviously stood at my door with his hand on my keys, so the gun was no good in his car. Right. So I kind of got my fingers, and I've got a little lip on my nails, and I managed to pinch into the back of his hand on the keys, and he let go. And as soon as he let go, luckily for me, like I said, he was wrecked. So it didn't take much just to push him out my doorway, shut the door, and press the start button on the Honda and drive off. But yeah, I nearly got carjacked outside my own house at 1:30 in the morning by the religion of peace.
Okay.
It goes to show, doesn't it? You're never safe, even in your own street.
No,
You're never safe in Birmingham, full stop.
no. I mean, who the hell carjacks a heavily tattooed man with a modified Type R? Who does that? It doesn't happen in history, but it nearly happened to me last week.
Look, Allah needs his Type R, his sports car, right? He needs to get around just the same as you do.
I'm sure he had a camel.
Allah's bounty of East and West includes your car. You should know that.
Gen- Gentlemen, the other thing I want you guys to share with everybody that's listening is experiences or maybe things that you've seen or heard. For example, I've known a person who was in a wheelchair, was baptized, and then was no longer in the wheelchair. I've seen.
Wow.
I've met somebody who was extremely ill with complication of ailments once they were baptized. They didn't say they were all cured, but certainly significantly was able to go on flights internationally, and that's how I met them actually, because they were from Australia. So I've heard that. I've even heard of a pastor, a priest, full of flu, and while they were baptizing members of the congregation, they instantly, were relieved of the symptoms of the flu.
Well, I have this theory that there are so many more miracle occasions and events than people are willing to admit, and it's because you will be ferociously attacked. As soon as you say you've seen a miracle or you've experienced God directly or anything like that, immediately people are going to want to question you to invalidate your testimony. We're told, don't be ashamed of your testimony, for it's a gift from God. Yeah. And even Paul himself says, what I'm going to tell you was going to sound like a boast, but I guarantee you that it's 100% true. He says that in Galatians, and he actually has a direct experience with God. So the people who have admitted to having miracle experiences and coming to faith, like the three of us, it might seem like there's not many of us, but the truth is we're just the ones who are brave enough to outwardly say it and take on that criticism. There's thousands of people who have had miracle experiences. A lot of Muslims are seeing Jesus in their dreams, but they don't want to speak openly about it. And I think this is a big indicator that Christianity is not only having a revival, God's sovereignty is coming back in a big way, and we are just a spearhead of that. We just happen to be there, right time, right place, and thousands of other people are going to be joining us in a very short time.
God's creating testimonies as we speak.
Absolutely. I wish I'd come prepared with the Bible verses now.
Well,
I haven't. I'm just chilled.
Well said, COVID. That was very nicely put, and you've probably undersung that, because I'm sure us three are seeing some amazing things happen in and around us. But all right, so on that note, I just want to go back a little bit and just talk about atheists. And I think this is vital because what COVID said. So he was an atheist. Now I'm going to make a statement, and you guys can come in and out as you want. I feel that atheists are lonely and empty. That's not to say that they don't have a lot to say. It's not that that I'm not calling them that evil or anything like that. I just feel like even an empty drum can make a lot of noise, but of course the drum is still empty. So I do feel that there's a certain level of loneliness and, like I said, emptiness. That's my conclusion, and I've always felt that. Even though I have a number of friends who are atheists. What do you guys think? Would you concur with that, or do you think it's much more deeper than that?
Totally
Well, I
agree.
think you said it best as part of your testimony earlier when you said you were an atheist and you were perfectly happy, and then you said you thought you were perfectly happy, but you actually didn't know what really happy was. And it was the same with me. I never knew how miserable my life was as an atheist. I thought I was having a great time. What about you, Jordan?
From a Christian perspective, right, it's a profound heartbreak in loneliness. God created humans for a relationship. To live in a universe without a personal loving relationship with a loving creation can lead to what St. Augustine called a God-shaped vacuum in the human heart. Right? That's a quotation that's followed on all the way through time. Without God in your heart, right, you're not connected to the apex of what everything's connected to. So you will feel lonely. You can have relationships with normal human relationships, but they're temporary, right? The only fulfilling, loving relationship is with God.
I once you feel the power of that relationship, then you know you can't deny what you just said. But my concern is those people that don't have a relationship with God. What is it that we can say or provide as an example for them to open their hearts? Because if you look at atheists, they've got their hearts and mind closed. It's almost as if they're very, to use a biblical term, it's a hardened heart and a hardened mind. So it's like it's like having a sheet of concrete or a sheet of lead around your mind and not being able to receive the signal from the mothership, so to speak, right? I feel that is what's hindering. So is there anything that we can say or provide as an example that can crack that outer shell so they can receive a clear signal, and hopefully that would be the change for them?
I
Well, I
really
think
don't know.
example, giving it the example of your life is the best thing you can do for an atheist. Like, it was the same for me when I was an atheist. I could talk a good game. I really could. I could convince, that I could talk the back legs off a donkey. I could sell you sand if you were an Arab. I could say anything and you would believe it because it was compelling, charismatic testimony. But then off stage, that was only temporary. When the camera was off, when the conference was over and I went home, my life didn't reflect what I had said. I didn't practice what I was preaching. And I feel like that's the way to really get to most atheists, is to say to them, look, you do that. You're very good at what you do. You talk up a good game. You got all the science. You got all your ducks in a row. But when the camera's off and you're on your own, you are lonely and miserable. None of this stuff is helping you. It's not making you feel better about your life. It's not making your life better. It's not making you better. It's just wasting your time, and you don't have forever. At some stage you get old and you die. You want to say your life has had a purpose and that it was a good purpose. And the only way that you're going to know that purpose and fulfill that purpose is through a relationship with the divine. Now, you can call that the universe for now, the unnamed God, or like me, you can personally know the face and the voice of your God and call him your Lord. But either way, and I know, there is more to life than meat, walking around on two legs, dying and feeding worms in the ground. There is more than that. And for you to find that out, you need prayer.
Can anything persuade somebody like Dawkins to be to come to Christ? Right?
Well,
you
Dawkins
think
pretty much
what he's
convinced
heard.
himself, didn't he?
In which
Dawkins
way?
is just a coward, I think. He's virtually convinced himself in some of the things that he said, and just because of his position and his career, he doesn't have the courage to actually do a prayer, the way that we all did.
Yeah, I suppose he's got a lot to lose. His monthly income is his books and
Exactly.
all the nonsense he spurts. I suppose it's, do I lose all this and admit my life has been wrong?
Well, he's got a book called The God Delusion, and it was on the bestsellers list for like 2.5, 3 years nearly. It did extremely well, and he made so much money from that book. And the entire premise of that book is he can scientifically prove that God doesn't exist. But if he's going to scientifically prove that God doesn't exist, he has to call you, Manny, and myself, and thousands of people who have directly seen a miracle or experienced God. He has to not only say we are liars, then he needs to show evidence and a motive for why we would tell that particular lie. So if he starts to do that, like I was saying, he's going to face huge criticism. Like what I said when I went back to my website and I said, guys, we've wasted 5 years because God is real and I found him and I know him now. And I wish you could all do a prayer to know that for yourself. I immediately got flamed, attacked. I got called names. I got hacked, my website. I lost my flat. I lost my whole life. My girlfriend left me. My life as I knew it was at a standstill within a week of me doing that. Now, I was a young lad. I was like 20, right? This guy is 70. He's got grandchildren. He's got daughters. He's got, I think he's married. So his life when it dissolves, is going to be a much bigger hit for him than my life dissolving was for me. And he doesn't understand that the reason that dissolves is because it is bad for you. And you need to rebuild your life with God at the center, and it will be a good life. So it's fear. You know, he hasn't got the courage to step into the unknown, if you like, and face the music and rely solely on a God he's not sure about. Whereas with me, I was 100% sure that God wasn't real when I did my prayer, but I did it as if God was real. And when he showed himself to me, I was big enough to actually say I was wrong and openly, publicly tell everyone, knowing that I was going to be criticized, knowing that my life was going to dissolve. I was wrong, God is real, and everyone should explore that this prayer thing does work. I just don't see him having the courage to do that, certainly not at this point. But he can be an example to other atheists. Watch the end of his life. He's in his senior years now. Let's see whether the statements he makes in his book, The God Delusion, whether the grandiose approach that he took on atheism in general, does his life stack up to that? Is that going to persist to the end of his life? Or like many other famous atheists, in his dying moments, is he going to be searching for God even then and wondering whether he's made the right decisions in his life?
I think another thing is that when you're so far away from God, God lifts his hands, and there's a certain level of ignorance. You might come across and might even act and feel very intelligent, but God is not giving you true enlightenment and true intelligence. And I'm talking from personal experience here. I spent best part of a decade, I would say, around 8 years part-time studying all religions based on astrotheology. So basically, I thought all religions were based on astrology. And as a consequence, I thought it were all man-made. And I even did a live stream once saying that I could create a religion, live while the live stream was going on. That was a level of kind of ignorance I had. But as soon as I took one step towards the Creator, who then took several steps towards me, my consciousness just shifted tremendously, and what I thought was intelligent, I instantly realized was extremely ignorant of me to even think that. And I think that is also a spiritual, supernatural thing where intelligence can be unveiled to us when we are on the right path, when we are connected to our source. Otherwise, if we are, say, a few points or higher IQ than the average person, we're just going to think we are intelligent, but we're not really going to have any substance, and anything that we do produce is not going to be as fruitful as you would hope it to be.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big difference, which only become clear to me after I started, really exploring prayer and speaking to God. There's a huge difference between intelligence and wisdom. Now, intelligence is like, you can pull up ChatGPT now and say, here's a million questions, please answer them all. It'll answer them all like this, right? And it'll give you the right answers with the data that it's got. And you think, if you can learn all that information, you're now intelligent, right? Because you can answer all those questions yourself. But wisdom means understanding each of the concepts in those answers. For instance, I can ask ChatGPT, give me a blueprint, a schematic of a steam train, perfectly, that I can build now. Bang. 10 seconds later, it has given me the blueprint. I can go off and build that train. But if I then say, ChatGPT, give me a steam train that goes underwater, it will give me a schematic that makes absolutely zero sense, doesn't work at all, that would kill you if you ever used it, and is a complete waste of everybody's time. And the reason is because even though it has synthetic intelligence, it knows steam train, it knows underwater, it knows me, travel, all the things it needs to know to copy something that's already been done, i.e. a steam train. When you ask it to do something new that has never been done before, a steam train underwater, it doesn't know how to do it, doesn't understand water, doesn't understand breathing, doesn't understand the comfort of being inside of a metal box when you're going underwater. And it perfectly demonstrates intelligence alone is worthless. Wisdom doesn't require intelligence. Wisdom requires a good heart and a view on the truth. And that can only come from God. So that's another thing that I'd say to atheists. It's like, if you want to level up your quote unquote intelligence, then you need to start putting your intelligence into the context of purpose. Why do you need to be intelligent? Why do you need to know these things? What are you going to do? What is the fruit of your intelligence? And that's the root of wisdom, because that can only come from God.
Brilliantly said.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I would add to that, when atheists converse or if they're debating, they always, if you notice, like ex-Muslims, they're always a little bit angry because they're operating or deflecting on a certain experience, right? And what happens is, when we listen to somebody who's passionate about something, then, you know, they draw our focus. And that also seems to happen if somebody is angry, whether or not they're talking sense or not. It seems to draw people's focus. And then I think that is translated in their materialistic minds, that all this attention is on me because I must be higher IQ, or I must be more intelligent, or I'm speaking the truth. But like you said, COVID, but when they go back home to an empty house and they're not living the life that they state they are living, then it kind of slowly, well, not always, but hopefully it will dawn on them eventually that there is changes to be made.
Yeah, well, I can't remember off the top of my head. There's a really good parable of a person who constantly wins every battle. In fact, there's a film called Hero, I think it is called. It's got Jet Li in it, and he's like the greatest kung fu expert. You know, it's obviously like a Chinese propaganda film, but it's pretty good. But this guy does all this kung fu, and he's like, you know, god level kung fu. He doesn't do silly fireballs or anything. He's just good at fighting. And he beats everyone in the whole land. And there's one guy left to fight. Then he's beaten everyone in the whole country. And the guy doesn't want to fight him. And he's very upset by this. So he eventually engineers a situation where he comes upon this guy on his birthday outside of the ring. And he baits him into a fight in a restaurant. And he beats the crap out of this guy and he dies. So then the next day they ring out a bell and they say, Yan Jia, you are now undisputed. You've beaten every man in the country. You are the ultimate practitioner of Kung Fu. But everybody ignores him. They will not speak to him past that. His family hates him because he has murdered a good man for the sake of his ego. And he realizes the mistake that he's made after that. So what he says at the end of the film is, it's not the winning that makes you a champion. It's actually letting someone else win and knowing inside that you could have won, you know, rather than having to have that service of ego where it's like, I need everyone to see me win so that they can know that I'm the best or that I'm good in some way. Knowing inside yourself that you have that in you and not needing to impress it upon others. Now, in a Christian context, I think that is humility. Like you were saying, with people who argue and then go home lonely, you know, you can win 1,000 arguments and demonstrate how clever you are, and then go home to an empty flat with a silent phone and no family. And what good did it do you? You know, you won 1,000 arguments. The rest of the world think you're 10% smarter than you are. Then you go home and you're lonely. Whereas maybe if you'd have let some of those people beat you outwardly and then continued your conversations with them privately afterwards, you would have friends and you wouldn't be sat at home being a miserable atheist. And it was the same with me. I never lost an argument, is what I used to say to people. I never lost a debate. But what I did is I lost the debate with God because I just was miserable. Whereas a lot of people who I had debates with, they really needed that win for some reason. And I could have convinced them more readily had I just conceded and said, okay, well, I'm not, you know, you're trying to push me into a corner of being rude or saying something inflammatory. I'm not willing to go there. I concede. Had I done that, my reputation would have increased and people would have flooded into my life because they would have seen that righteous behavior. But I was arrogant. I needed to win. And I did win. And then that was the reason I ended up miserable. But this is like the difference between intellect intelligence and wisdom is I was so sure that intellect and knowing things was the way to be successful, and I had no wisdom at all. Then after I found God, I realized even a really thick, you can be retarded and know nothing and be wise. And that wisdom will carry you further in life than 1,000 debate wins based on intelligence.
Well said. All right, let's switch it up a little bit. Jordan, why don't you come in and why do you start this one off? Why does God let bad things happen? Which is
Oh, you gave me the worst one. Why does God let bad things happen? It's free will. God gave us free will. And much suffering comes in a result of sin and bad choices, ours and others. A broken world, when sin entered in Genesis 3, it corrupted the whole of creation, leading to natural disasters and disease and death. But God isn't absent. God's there all the time, right? So it's free will. That's what he lets bad things happen. God can make good things come out of bad, like the cross, for instance, right?
Amen.
There was the suffering on the cross where Jesus died on the cross, but look what came out of the ultimate evil on the cross, the ultimate greatness, salvation. Without that, we wouldn't be saved, right? So God is definitely not absent, but it's all about free will. Free will, it can do amazing things, but it can also do horrible, evil things. And that's where it all stems from.
I think as well, if you think about what good and evil is practically, in your life, if you don't have a choice to make bad decisions, to do evil, then there is no good and evil. You're just a slave, aren't you? If you're programmed to do everything good and there's no option not to, then it's not good. It's just obedience. It's like what the Muslims claim that they have is they don't make choices. They are on the straight path from birth to death. Allah writes their destinies. But we don't have that. Our Lord is gracious enough to give us free will so that we can know good and evil and we can know the difference and we can choose to be good and volunteer for God's purposes.
That's all about the change that happens when we seek redemption.
Amen, brother. Shout out for redemption and all those who have seeked it, all those who seek it. Yeah, you can tell I've not had a lot of sleep this week. It was my birthday last week.
Oh, well, happy belated birthday to you, mate.
Thank
How
you.
old?
Yeah, ripe old age of 43 now.
43. Oh, that seems a long time ago for me.
I'm a spring chicken then, am I?
Yeah, I'm nearing 50 now, scarily.
You don't look a day over 18.
Oh, thank you. That'll help my Peter Pan syndrome.
That's why that Muslim was trying to rob your car. He saw you and he thought, who's this young, pretty chap with a nice car? He doesn't deserve that stuff. I'm going to nick it off him.
Oh, you've made me feel good today, I was thinking he was thinking, this old man shouldn't have this car anyway.
Just one last thing on the last point. I also think that difficulties come because God is testing us, and when difficulties come, like say if He takes everything away from us, it's because He's resetting us, and to reset us, we have to kind of start from scratch. So difficulties are also there. It's like the best teacher in the world when things are difficult and you're trying to find what am I going to do. You're going to reach out to God, but also your spirit and your intelligence is going to kick into hyperdrive, and you're going to start looking for solutions. And how many times have we heard stories of rich, successful, and very intelligently kind people stating that the change happened when they were at rock bottom, and
you know what? That's a great point about being at rock bottom, because I just thought, when you meet someone who is genuinely at rock bottom or is near, on the way down, and you try and say to them, cheer up, son, you'll be fine. God will pick you up and set you right and you'll be fine. Everything's going to be all right next week or tomorrow, trying to reassure them. They will give you the most depressing, most intense evils and like the most bad stories. And they'll say, no, everything sucks. Life's terrible. It's not going to get better. And, often they will convince you into misery if you don't have a foundation of faith. Whereas if you've been through the ringer yourself, if you've seen the bottom of the pit and you've had to climb back out with no one there to help you apart from God, then you can stand up to that and you can say, no, I know exactly how you feel. I have been there. And then I came out of it. Now I'm here. And that can be you. You can really help minister people who are in those difficult situations. Whereas if you've got no experience of pain, you haven't seen that tough life, then how are you going to do that? So I think God puts you through it as a recognition that you're going to be useful to someone worse off than you in future.
Indeed.
I was at rock bottom. I couldn't even sleep. It was terrifying. If I hadn't
do you know,
gone
I
through
really
that
feel
sleep
for that.
paralysis.
I cannot imagine the horrors of not being able to sleep regularly. Like I missed out a couple of days sleep this week, and it really just impacted how useful I am. What I find is I tend to stutter, make like silly mistakes, forget that my tea's over there brewing and it goes cold. When I've had 2 days with no sleep, I can't imagine the horror of not sleeping for days, weeks, months.
So when people at rock bottom say, let's put ourselves in a scenario. So people, we're with somebody who's not doing too well, and they're on their way down. They don't, they're going to be even lower, and we need to give them some advice or words of assurance. So and the best way is obviously to introduce them to God, even though it has to be their own decision. So what do we say to them, and what is the objective?
Well, for me, from my experience, it's stop relying on earthly things. I know it's a bit of a cliche to us because we're Christian, but to an atheist, this is like a big, it's a shock idea, is don't rely on your salary or your car or your house or the friends you've made or even your family, your mum and dad. Don't rely on earthly things and people, because all that stuff will eventually fail you. And people that rely on you, you will fail them. And it will bring you nothing but sorrow and misery. But the one thing, the only thing that you will ever be able to fully rely on that will never let you down is the grace of Jesus Christ. And if you lean into that, no matter how long the drop is, before you hit rock bottom, how high up you have to climb to get back up, Jesus Christ will be there for you. And you will succeed in your trials if only you have faith in that Jesus is your Lord and you pray to him. Now, that's something you can't say for any other person, any other thing, any other mode of transport, abode, house, car, horse, tool, anything else in life. Only Jesus is going to do that for you and is willing to do that for you, no matter what you've done. No matter what you have done, everything can be forgiven if you are sincerely repenting. And it takes one simple prayer. Dear Lord, hands together, amen at the end. Whether you got faith or not doesn't matter. Okay, well said. So Jordan's having phone issues as usual. He said he'll be back. He's going to reset his phone and come back. So I've been following the chat a little bit while COVID was talking, and Miss Piggy is an absolute fantastic believer, and I wish she would one day come on to the panel, because she has some amazing testimony. She's a very decent, nice person, and don't let that fool you. She's no softie. She can certainly stand her own, and so her testimony, she did tell me that she was in a wheelchair, and she was, when she was saved, when she became a fully fledged Christian, she was out of the wheelchair. So that's the story, and that is true. So I just wanted to touch on that. So going back to the question, how can people reach God? I would say keep the rules God has
has asked everybody to keep, and your path to the Creator, to the Lord, as COVID put it, will be clear, because that is the essence of what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to keep His laws and the laws of the kingdom, and then our paths will be kept clear. And that also answers why certain people of different faiths and walks also have good luck as well, is because they are invertedly in their own way keeping the laws of God. Now obviously if they were to continue on certain paths, that would mean that they would break those laws, and therefore their so-called good luck also seems to take a left. But my advice to anybody that I come across would be to keep the laws, and then assistance is there. But of course you have to call upon God through prayer to interfere in your life and take control, and you do that by giving Him control of your life, because He knows better.
Yeah, I think Manny, that needs way more unpacking, like especially for atheists, because think about what you just said. Keep God's commandments. Like, it's easy for us. Well, it's not easy, but it's something that we will commit to doing, we'll put effort to. But when I was an atheist, I was a heavy smoker. I drank a lot of alcohol. I did plenty of drugs. I was promiscuous. I had stolen things in the past and argued with my mum and dad, and pretty much every sin under the sun, and all the commandments that I was breaking on a regular basis. So if you'd have said to me then, right, tomorrow you're not allowed to do any of this stuff, that is an insurmountable height that I can't reach. So I'm immediately going to say no to that, because it's impossible in my head. And I didn't believe in God at that point, so that's why it was impossible. So I think to say people need to keep God's commandments, you also need to say how that's going to work. You don't have to literally do it all on your own, because that is an insurmountable height you're never going to reach. For me, I knew as soon as I realized that God was real, I wanted to quit smoking. I wanted to quit drinking. I never wanted to take drugs again. I wanted to be honest and virtuous and purposeful. I wanted to be good. And I said to God, please send your spirit into my body, like remote control my body for as long as you need to. Do whatever you need to. I won't resist it. Make my life good. Make me good. And however that happens, I will accept it. And what started to happen is I naturally started to smoke less, drink less. I stopped doing drugs. I forgave my mum and dad and started to have a relationship with them, like a real good family relationship. And I started to notice over time, that is how the Holy Spirit works in us. We don't have to take these things on alone. We're not capable to do these things alone, certainly not over the long space of our lives.
So your hardened heart was softened, and then your blinkers were lifted. Yeah, that's a wonderful story. I'm really happy to hear that you're having a good relationship with your family. That is one of the warmest things that I hear, because when we're young, we think we can do it all ourselves and we don't need family. As we get older, we just realize how important family has been, let alone is and will be in the future. And I just wish and pray that everybody has a good family around them. Jordan, welcome back.
Hello. I froze and everything went silent, and I tried talking and nothing happened. Can you
That's
hear me
okay. Yes, we can hear you now. Thanks for coming back on. So we want you to answer, if somebody is not doing so well and you come across them, what advice would you give them? What methodology would you give them in order to help them out of the hole and stay out the hole?
Oh, another difficult one. You've planned these today, haven't you?
Well, we've just answered them.
He's ambushed you.
It's not our fault. It's not our fault your phone's been taken over by the dark side.
Right. So if somebody's going through a hard time, tell them to pick up the Bible, have a look in the Bible and see what verses are in there for you. There's verses that cover everything. And strangely, you've only got to open the Bible in New Testament to randomly put your finger on a verse, and 9 times out of 10 it'll make sense to how you are feeling, and there'll be something there that can help you.
Oh, that's a
That is-
great point. The random Bible verse thing. See, the first time I did that, I got Jeremiah 10-12, and I actually had never read it before, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me, so I didn't finish reading it. Months and months later, I had a dream where I showed someone else Jeremiah 10-12. And as soon as I woke up, I read it. It immediately made sense to me, and I thought, wow, like if I'd have only listened the first time that I got shown that. So the random Bible verse thing, that is such a good idea. I hope everyone who listens to this, who hasn't ever read a Bible, immediately picks one up afterwards and just opens a random page and just reads it. Even if
put
it's
your
not
finger.
immediately apparent
Yeah.
to you, trust me, later you will realize that is relevant to you. There's
Yeah.
no accident from that page being shown to you.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that for years. You know, even before all of this, because you can't really argue the logic that's in the Bible is the logic, and the quotes of what Jesus said and various other things is powerful, whether or not you believe in God. Those quotes or those passages are still very, very powerful.
Yeah. Well, I remember praying to be released from the curse of swearing. Like I used to swear all the time. I still do occasionally. I try not to. And I prayed, please God, dear Lord, let me not swear so much when I'm trying to make these videos. I keep ruining them by accidentally putting a swear word in right at the end. Allow me to stop doing that. Immediately open the Bible, Isaiah 5, the men of unclean lips. And it's literally, it couldn't have been more relevant. And it was like, well, I should probably stop calling it a random page. It was not really random. I feel like God wanted me to read that specific thing at that specific time. And it really did help me to stop swearing so often, stop cursing. I still do occasionally, but 99% of my swearing is now not a problem anymore.
At least it was only cursing, not blaspheming. I hate it when I hear somebody blaspheme, use the name.
Oh yeah, it
the
wasn't.
name
Yeah,
of
it
the
wasn't
Lord.
anything too bad.
Yeah. I mean, cursing, the odd swear word here and there. We're all adults, aren't we? You know what I mean? But sometimes you have even children that blaspheme.
this
You wouldn't use the name of your mum and dad if you hit your finger with an hammer, would you? You know what I mean? It's wrong.
And the thing is, when I was making videos, I never envisioned that anyone was ever going to watch them. So I was swearing as if, I'm speaking to my friends over a, spliff or whatever, like what I used to do years ago. And then when I started to realize, not only do people watch my videos, their children are watching my videos. And that immediately changed it. So I prayed. I said, please, dear Lord, stop me from swearing, because it's just, there's nothing good about it. It's absolutely a really bad thing. And it wasn't blaspheming, but it was, it was pretty bad. It was all the common swear words and insults and stuff. And it does
It's in the
fault you
child's
well.
mind.
So what I realized is it was attention seeking. The reason I was making my videos more dramatic by swearing and putting little angry moments in there, really, I was thinking that was going to make people pay more attention.
I must admit, when I'm a bit frustrated, I do tend to use swear words in conversations. Not generally, but if
It's
something else
emotive, isn't it?
frustrating.
Like, think about when you're watching a Hollywood film or something like that, or even I watch a lot of police body cam, right? When they're arresting someone, they will swear at that person to give more clout to the thing that they're saying, And it's like they don't have the words to use, so they swear to make it more powerful. And you've got to ask yourself, why is there power in cursing? Surely there should be more power in blessing than cursing. That's what the Bible tells us. Even though it's more difficult, you'll take more practice for you to bless as powerfully as you can curse. It is definitely worth it. And that's what I really feel like is.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
No, I didn't either. It was in the Bible. It was another random Bible page.
Well said. All right, guys, I want to switch it up to President Trump. Even though he is doing some very good things, there's a few points of frustration. For example, the Epstein files are not being released. There's clearly some level of cover-up going on there. During all this, the chief Epstein accuser and accuser of Andrew. She's been killed. Oh, sorry, unalived. And then also more recently, Charlie Kirk. If you guys, I know we speak about it a lot on our Discord channel, but you know there's a lot of controversy there. So what are we to make on all that? I mean, my conclusion is that you can't rely on anyone but God, and I am frustrated at President Trump, but I'm also want to know what you guys think and what is really going on.
Go on, Geordie. You're the expert. I'm rubbish at politics.
Go on then. Is this mic working?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
brilliant. It's like for some reason my icon's not flashing on my phone. You know where you go around the circle, look. Oh, it is now.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right then, Trump. Right, you know, Manny, I've always had a bit of a problem with Trump. Ever since he turned around to Hillary Clinton and said, if I was president, you'd be in prison. Is she in prison now?
No.
So he still hasn't done that one, right? He's running around. Yeah, he's doing really well when it comes to his immigration, right? But in the background, he's still doing what we're doing. He's trying to bring in a digital ID, right?
Correct.
Which scarily, there in Canada is a wearable digital ID. That is really, really close to a mark in the right hand, right? Which terrifies me, right? Now, Trump, right? Him and Jared Kushner, right, in the background are running around creating peace treaties, right? These peace treaties are not working at the moment, right? As the Bible says, if you hear of wars and rumors of wars, the time isn't right yet, right? So we're still hearing of these wars, but we've got in the background the Abraham Accord and the Cyrus Accord, right? Now, this peace treaty, the Bible tells you it will fail, right? It's going to be a 7-year peace treaty. Somewhere halfway, it breaks down, right? So it's only going to last about 3.5 years, right? Now, I think President Trump is literally taking us into the end time prophecies, right? I think that's what we're seeing with President Trump, right? And I think the Epstein files is going to be his new Hillary Clinton thing. I reckon it'll never happen. I reckon a lot of these things are keeping you looking this way while he's doing all this that way. But obviously what he's doing that way is so big, right? It's impossible to hide anyway.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. And I suppose we kind of covered it a bit by saying earlier, don't ever rely on a person or a thing. Nothing earthly is going to be reliable. And that includes all the celebrities that you think you love, you know, your politicians, Hillary Clintons, your Donald Trumps, and your Daily Corvids, really, and your Manny Sliders, everyone. You know, it's not like we're bad people, but we are human. We will let you down if you 100% rely on us. The one time when we make a mistake, you will be relying on us, then we'll let you down. And it's the same with Donald Trump. You know, like you say, he's done a lot of good. Like, you know, I wasn't a big fan of him until a year or two ago. I'm still not really a big fan, but I like the stuff that he's doing in terms of immigration. I like the way that he spoke to the UN. He gave him a good dressing down. I like the fact that he's supporting Israel because I do believe that they're the right side of that particular conflict. But is he the guy? Is he the guy? No, he isn't. He's just a guy. He's just like you or I. You know, 99% of the time he's going to do the right thing. And the 1% when he buggers it up supremely will be the 1% where everyone is relying on him. And he causes a huge issue for them. So, you know, Trump is
the breakdown of the peace treaty.
Politician. He's absolutely going to let us down in the end. Not because he's a bad guy or a bad president, because God is the only person who we should rely on in that way.
Yes, totally agree.
Okay, two very interesting points. One is they are trying to do away with cash and take everybody into stable coins. And stable coins fused with digital ID will then allow them to put money and take money out at will in any bank account, which all your bank accounts are digital already anyway. But I believe what they are trying to do is basically put an expiry date on stable coins. And his Donald Trump's, that is, his Genius Act allows all that to happen. So, like Jordan said, it's actually very scary that he is knowingly or unknowingly helping all this to come along and materialize. So, you know, he could be doing some amazing work, but if he makes the Bible come true in terms of you know, the mark on the head or you know, the mark on the hand in order to buy, sell, and everything else, then he will not be a savior of any sort. If anything, he will definitely be on the side of the dark side.
100%. 100%. Elon Musk, it's Neuralink, right? You think Neuralink, that's the mark in the forehead, right?
Mhm.
Now,
Correct.
I learnt about this decades ago, right? It was probably one of the biggest fears I had as a conspiracy theorist, right? A company called Applied Digital Solutions, right, had just been given the patent for a new microchip, 1/6 the size of a grain of rice, that went into the back of the hand. And this microchip had all your health details on. It would work as your credit card, right? And it would have your passport and all your ID on, right? That was back in the year 2000, right? Funny enough, the system they operated was called Digital Angel. They couldn't have made it sound more like end time prophecy if they tried, right? Now, they found out that not only is the back of the right hand the most convenient place for them to put the microchip, because obviously all your self-serving tills and all your scanners, you put your card or your phone there. So the back of your right hand is the perfect place, convenient. But they also found out that something to do with the change of your body temperature in that part of your hand is the most consistent place to keep the electro charge of the battery alive, right? And that was in the year 2000, right? Now, if you have a look, these microchips, right, they're used in quite a few countries, right? They're already out there, right? Now, digital ID, digital currency, and a digital health passport is just one step away from mandatory microchip, right? Let's be honest, they've been testing on animals for years. In this country now, we don't only have to have our dogs microchipped, but we have to have our cats microchipped. Make sense of that. Has anybody been attacked by a rabid cat that bad that we should microchip every cat in the country? It's obviously some sort of animal testing to see how good these chips are, how long they last, right? They always test on the animals first.
Correct.
Yeah. And getting us used to them. Obviously, in our brains now, we wouldn't think twice about having our dog or our cat microchipped. It's law, right? The Bible says one day we'll be made to choose between the law of God and the law of man. And I believe that microchip is that moment, right? The law of a man will want us mandatory to be connected to the B system with that microchip that controls everything, right? Soon as you've got that, your body is your prison, right? You do anything they don't like. You go to a protest. You say something bad on Twitter about the government. They don't need to come and talk to you. They don't need to arrest you. They just turn your microchip off. It really is that simple. Right?
Well, well, we know that's what they're planning to do, because where they've tested it in places like China, that's exactly what they've done.
Yes. Yeah. Right. You can't buy or sell. You wouldn't be able to pay your rent. You wouldn't be able to pay your mortgage, your car finance, your Burger King. You wouldn't be able to afford anything, right? They turn your microchip off. They've got the ultimate control.
And remember, at the same time, they're basically going towards outlawing or making it illegal to be a follower of Yeshua, to be a Christian. So why? Because they don't want you to pray. They don't want you to. They don't want you to go outside an abortion murder clinic and want you to pray there. They don't want you to gather en masse in your local church and pray there. You know, there's something, like we were saying at the start of the show, there's something about prayer. There's something about prayer to the right God, and something about prayer with humility and doing it the right way, with repentance and asking for help in the right way. This is all related, and that's probably the key message that we're trying to share with you with this live stream.
100%. And not only that, they definitely do not want you to see the warnings of the end times. They don't want you to see that it starts with a peace treaty. They don't want you to see that there's going to be a temple belt where the man of sin will literally stand there one day and declare himself as God. They don't want you to see that one day we will be forced to have a mark where without we can't buy or sell. They do. The Bible warns us of what they are doing. If you never read it, if you never hear this, you never heed the warning. You're going to have that chip in the back of your hand, and it's not going to be very good for you when you're standing there on Judgment Day.
Is this a war?
Pardon?
Absolutely. It's a war. It's not a conventional war. It's not a war where we're going to be given rifles and packs full of bullets and we're going to have to go and shoot each other in the streets. But it's a war in terms of there's two sides vying for domination of the world, one over the other, and one of them's going to win and the other one's going to wither and pass away. So in that way, it's like a spiritual war, isn't it? The loser loses their soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
So God said in the Bible that we have dominion. So we are here to rule in the place of God. God rules through us. So we have dominion. Unless we take ownership of that dominion, then the dark side wins. But if we allow God to work through us, through prayer, then we, or certainly God, wins. That's the fight, right?
Well, look at the comments in the chat, right? Let's go through. One of them said, there's quite a lot of them actually saying, Charcoal Light, 7:21 p.m. Palestinian prisoners released by the Zios have said he was raped with sticks and dogs. So you think, why would someone even consider that this is a thing that is A, relevant to this conversation we're having, and B, actually true? That is something which is directly against what God has told us to do. You know, judge lest you not be judged. And that person there has obviously read something online, connected it with their own current, temporal politics. And it's like, right, I'm going to insult a whole nation of people, but I'm not even going to give them the ignominy of recognizing their name. I'm going to call them Zios, like a slur. And I'm going to infer that they are raping their prisoners with sticks and dogs. And what a disgusting comment. How do you even rape someone with sticks and dogs? Like, that's just not a thing that happens. And the reason they are doing that is to support the Palestinian freedom doctrine, which is directly opposed to Christian doctrine. So that's the kind of thing where we see you can have freedom to fight against that, despite that you're going to be criticized, despite that the world is going to try and bend you onto the knee to that. You can say, no, I am already a subject of my Lord, and that's the only person that I will bend my knee to, and I voluntarily bend my knee to Jesus Christ, who has told me in the Bible that that is not the case, who has given me evidence that that is not the case, who has given me his own truthful testimony and his life, his blood, to show me that that is a lie. But there's so many people out there who don't have the courage to stick up for themselves, to stick up for what they believe in, to stick up for the Bible and God, because they don't want to be criticized. They don't want to be on the quote unquote the wrong side of history. They're bending the knee to the murmurs of men and not recognizing the power of God. That's where the freedom to choose good and evil is really going to serve them in one way or the other to the end of this war. Are they going to choose to save their soul and perish in physical body, or are they going to choose to serve their physical body now and have their soul perish at the end?
Majority of Muslims believe that Aisha was indeed a child, and they are okay with that. Now, is that an indication of there being power of some sort from that from that, shall we say, religion that's completely the opposite to, say, the religion or the thought process that Jesus created. So what I'm trying to say is, so if a mind can be tuned into accepting a elderly man taking a child as a bride, can we conclude that there is some kind of power from that thought process?
Well, I think it's obviously not something that God would ever say to you that is a good thing. Having a 60-year-old man take a 6-year-old as a wife, and then have a further 7 wives, or 7 or 8 wives over the space of his life, that is not something that God would sanction. And we know that. We can understand even from as early as Genesis, God has said, "You will be cleaved together as one flesh, you and your wife." And the reason is so that you can share each other's burdens. And there's purpose, there's practicality to that. Whereas if you look at the supposed alleged life of Mohammed and the way that he treats his relationships, his wives, there is no purpose to that apart from pride and greed. He was serving his own purposes, he was serving his own life, and it didn't really matter what the effect this would have on others. So we know God is the provider of good things, of virtue, and then that has none in it. Having a 6-year-old bride and then getting rid of her for a younger, prettier model 20 years later, when you're an old man, there is no virtue in that. So we know that wasn't from God.
Yeah, no, what my point is, maybe I wasn't being very clear, and I was trying to be a bit too wishy-washy. So, say for example, there is a Muslim doctor. So we can conclude that a consultant doctor does have a certain level of IQ. However, that gentleman is happy to continue with his belief, knowing full well or believing full well that a 50-odd-year-old man somewhere in history, according to his history, did marry and conceive a marriage with a child. What I'm saying is that an indication of his thought process? Is that an indication of a dark power that has a hold on him? Or is that an indication that there are third-party effects that are holding him and making him feel that he's a prisoner and have to go along with his story? Or something else?
3 of those things. Absolutely all 3 of those things. He's a prisoner because he's a slave of Allah. That's in the doctrine. In the beginning of the Quran, you've got Al-Fatiha, where it literally says you're going to be a slave of Allah. You have to believe in the straight path and have your free will removed. You have to believe in the last day of judgment and Allah being the master of that. And then you have to follow the life and example of the Prophet Muhammad. So the life of the Prophet Muhammad says 6-year-old brides are moral. So they don't see it as immoral. They don't see it as rape or child abuse or kidnap or any of these things. They see it as something desirable that all Muslim men should actually prize and try to do. So that says to me, they're not thinking in terms of morality. They're not choosing between good or evil the way that we Christians do through our relationship with God. They're trying to copy a previous guy who is now dead, who clearly demonstrated himself to be thoroughly evil. And they're doing this as a slave of a false god. So it's slavery, it's ignorance, it's all those things. And the only way that they're ever going to get around that is repentance and forgiveness through Christ. And we know that. And it's just a case of them understanding that or not.
But this country doesn't help. Yeah, I posted something on Discord the other day. In Birmingham, they've got a marathon fun run, and it's only for men and children girls under the age of 13. Right? Why do they allow things like that? I know we're a liberal country, but surely things like that should be outlawed straight away. I mean, why are women not allowed to join in?
Yeah, I think the law definitely does have a lot of problems in that area. And well, it's like verging into politics. So disclaimer, I admit that I'm not the greatest political speaker. I'm not the greatest political mind. I speak from the heart. But as far as I know, having these grey areas in law where the protection of girls and women is now up in the air, which we had it right before. We did better 50 years ago than we do today. The reason that is in a declining state is because of pollution through diversity law. We have accepted foreign cultures and foreign ways, which the Bible explicitly tells us not to do. And the wages of that sin is death. Now, it might not be a physical death. It might be a spiritual death, a death of dignity, a death of freedoms. And it certainly is harmful to women and girls. And we know that. So once again, we know if we go to the Bible, we do what God tells us to do, those things would not happen. We would not be taking on these foreign customs. But because we have, you know, how far does the rabbit hole go? If we're going to accept Islam as equal and, you know, as equal as all the other religions, we have to recognize that in Islam, having a 6-year-old wife is absolutely the law and is prized as a religious moral goal. Having 4 wives is a religious moral goal. You know, so we have a bigamy law. We have 1 wife and you have to look after your wife and you marry for love. And even if you marry someone, you can't demand that they sleep with you. You know, you don't own their body in that way. But under Muslim law, the only thing a Muslim wife is required to do, the marriage contract is only based upon this. She has to sleep with you on command. That's the only thing that she's there to do. If she says no, you punish her, beatings and starvation, and finally tortures and death. And that is in the Quran. So,
and that's exactly what they've done, not just to their own wives, but other women, wherever these Islamic regimes have taken over country. That's exactly the type of torture techniques and you know, activities that they've conducted.
Exactly. But you know, it's difficult because I was watching a live stream the other day actually, and the topic was 90% of Pakistani Muslims have been found to be in some way inbred, you know, first cousin marriages and such. And the reason this was a topic, it was a medical live stream. They were talking about congenital birth defects stemming from having been inbred, right? And so many people said, I don't have a view on this. I'm not going to say that it should be banned because it's their culture. Now,
It's cruelty.
as far as I'm concerned, our culture is not to purposefully create mutant babies with really bad congenital heart conditions for the sake of a dark age cult ideology that is not from this country. Our culture is that you don't have sex and marry your first cousins because we know that it is bad. But because Islam has brought that in, we're treating Islam as equal. Now we've recognized Palestine, it's in their Palestinian Bill of Rights. We now have to have the conversation and treat the doctrine of first cousin marriages equally with our own. And that's the reason why women and girls can never be protected while Islam is in this country. No, we've made it law that we have to have the conversation in the context of Islam. But if you bring up individuals and say, well, let's talk about these guys with the first cousin marriage, they will say it's Islamophobic.
Yeah, it's absolutely madness, isn't it? Absolutely mad.
Well,
It's
again,
even down to we've got slavery in this country again. We never had slavery in this country, and now it's here.
Well, like I say, that to be a Muslim, you have to be a slave of Allah. So every single Muslim, man, woman, or child, calls themselves a slave of Allah by doctrine. So like you say, we got rid of slavery hundreds of years ago. We spent millions and thousands of guys died to bring slavery to an end. You know, we rejoiced at the fact that we'd done that. And then we accept Islam, we go back 500 years or 300 years, however many hundreds of years it was. Now we're accepting that a person who is a willing slave to a cult figure, you know, a false god, we're accepting that state of slavery is equal to my freedom under Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely insane to me. It makes absolutely no sense. But
Okay.
we've accepted it. So there's nothing we can do now. It's in our law. Unless we do the smart thing and absolutely deport all Muslims and get rid of Islam.
Do you think we should deport Muslims and what have you, or do you think we should?
Well, they're not going to go willingly, are they? They're here on a conquest. They're here to invade us because their Quran instructs them to. They're not going to willingly leave until that conquest is completed. You know, the jihad, the cause of Allah. So
Yeah,
if
but
we're not.
therefore, wouldn't it be better just to change the status of Islam into a terrorist ideology, if all that is true?
Yeah, well, I still don't think they'd leave. Then they just apply taqiyya. They would claim that they were not practicing Muslims, and they'd go home and they'd practice it in secret. So you've got to be hardline about these things, haven't you? It comes down to what you believe in. If you believe God's law makes it very clear that we don't accept evil foreign customs from other nations and cultures because they will corrupt what God has given to us. So if you believe that, practically, how do you enforce that? You have to ban Islam and deport all Muslims. If they want to become ex-Muslims and they can physically demonstrate in their life that they're not doing those things, you know, and if they're going to uphold the values of this country, then fine. We can make the case that they could stay here. And we could even have a domicile program for people that leave Islam. But the current situation is completely untenable because we cannot trust that Muslims are going to tell us the truth because of taqiyya, because of permissible lying, because of the jihad, and the fact that their Quran tells them treat Christians and Jews with arrogance and spite and lie to them. You know, and it says, do not ever take Jews, Christians as your friends, guardians, or protectors, or you will be treated like they will be in the end days. Like, all these are Quran doctrines they cannot get rid of. So how is that compatible with our law? The answer is it isn't.
It isn't.
And the only way to get rid of that is to take a hard line, be courageous, and take strength and courage the way that God told Joshua, you know, in the book of Joshua to do. Sometimes you need to make a tough decision you're not going to like, and it will make you sad, but in the long term, it's for the best. And that's what we need to do.
You did a video on the book, is it called The Journey of the Traveller? And that's the one what kind of instructs the Muslims on how to behave when they cut Reliance of the Traveller. That's it. And that's the book is it not the one which kind of instructs the Muslim how to behave when he lands on foreign ground?
Absolutely. What the Reliance of the Traveller is, it's the Quran rewritten into a formal law code with much, much more detailed instructions. So it's basically Sharia with Arabic and then an English translation. And the reason it's called Reliance of the Traveller is because this is what the Muslim relies upon as a law code as they travel to foreign countries to install Islam. So they completely disregard our law. Every single Muslim that came here and wrote on their immigration form that they were going to follow our law lied, taqiyya, because they're relying on this law. And the simple fact of the matter is, if they don't do that, they're an apostate of Allah committing shirk. So they can't be a Muslim and also be a law-abiding British citizen unless it's part of a minor jihad. That's a fact.
Okay.
Oh yeah, can I just quickly go back to, someone said in the chat earlier, this is going a bit off topic, Skyworks said, what do we think about the fate of atheists after death? What do we think of the fate of atheists after death? I just quickly wanted to touch on this. So after death is a big thing to say because God can reverse death. God can bring people back from the dead. And actually, part of my own testimony, I died and I knew I was dead and God brought me back from the dead. So I'm now not dead. So I was saved after my death, but that meant I came back here and I'm now alive. So you could say, in answer to that question, if you wanted to be, you know, kind of tough on me, you didn't really die, so it doesn't count. But if you wanted to be respectful of my testimony, you know, and the thing that happened to me, you would say, I was saved from death by God through a single prayer when I had no faith. So in that way, death is something which is a punishment for those who rebel against God. You don't have to believe in God to be saved, is what I think. Because at the point when you're about to die, you will see God. And if you accept that God is God at that point, then you will have faith and that will save you. However, if you rebel against God, knowing that he is God, you know, if you don't like the idea of God and you think you're better than him or something like that, then you will suffer death. That's what I think. And my experience was that.
Would you guys mind if I play the video very quickly?
Go on then. Do you know, I kept seeing pictures of the lake of fire there as well, Corvin.
Well, it was really bugging me. Like, he's doing it now. Look, Skyworks 6009. He's going to condemn me to hell. If he'd actually listened to what I just said, it was the opposite of what I said. But he's
in the middle of the
condemning
road,
himself
in
to
the
hell,
middle
blaming me.
of highways, in the middle.
Sorry, I'll let you finish. I'll play it afterwards. Sorry.
Oh, the point was Skyworks 6009. This is personally to you. I'm not condemning you to hell. I don't have the ability to condemn you or save you. I'm just simply telling you, through your actions, you will condemn yourself to hell. You shouldn't be worrying about physical death. You should be worrying about the state of your soul, because that's the thing that's going to define whether you die in fire or whether you live in heaven. It's not down to me. It's down to you.
Well said.
If you look at the following videos, you see a phenomena that we don't see much of in other communities. They are taking up space in the middle of the road, in the middle of highways, in the middle of where everyone is walking. You could do it on the side, you won't be noticed. What is really going on over here? What are the psychological processes or factors that motivates you to have so little consideration of people around you? According to Christ, this is virtue signaling. You want to be seen by others. In Speaker's Corner in London, there are regulations for what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. As you see in front of you, these are the regulations regarding what is allowed and what is forbidden. And they have made it very clear that collective prayers is not allowed. But it doesn't seem to matter. The police are not enforcing it. And when they have enforced it, after pressure, when we shamed them worldwide, they implemented it for a short time. And then the Muslims seem to go back to try to dominate. What's really going on? Why are the police not enforcing the rules? And why do Muslims not seem to show any respect to the rules? Well, this video will answer that. And the short answer is supremacy and dominance.
ربي جل الله 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 ما في قلبي غير الله
Bye, apa buat? Bye, sini sembahyang ke? Ayo, mati-mati yo.
basically, this is what Muslims are going to do because I'm from Pakistan and I know these things. It's really a norm in Pakistan. They do it to show numbers. It's a sign of dominance. Other people should mock them. They just want to show that, we're here to stay. I mean, they could easily go to a mosque. I mean, mosque, it's not far. It's not, it's not that small that they cannot contain these numbers, but they just want to show numbers and strength that we are here to stay and we're going to pray. But whether you like it or not, Islam will grow.
محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
This is a Friday in Paris, filmed by hidden camera. The streets are blocked by a huge crowd of Muslim worshippers, and it's enforced by private security. This is all illegal in France. The public worship, the blocked streets, and the private security. But the police have been ordered not to intervene. So he bought a hidden camera and started posting the videos on YouTube. His life has been threatened, and so we're concealing his identity. He uses the alias of Maxime Lepant.
They are blocking the streets with barriers. They are praying on the ground, and the inhabitants of this district cannot leave their home nor go into their home during those prayers. The Muslims who are taking over those streets do not have any authorization. They do not go to the police headquarters, and so it's completely illegal.
This is what Muslims are going to do because I'm from Pakistan and I know these things are really, it's really.
So we get the idea. That in a nutshell is what Islam is. They're not here to be friends. They're not here to play nicely. They have extremes amount of US dollar oil money that's being pumped in. That's why you have politicians and other corrupt individuals standing in line. It's not because there's some magical recipe. It's because they seem to be corrupt and they seem to be bought out. And as a consequence, things
they've got
are not.
one thing right. I'll tell you, that's one thing that Islam did get right. It's not a good thing. America and the West generally thinks, oh, they're just like us. They deep down they're on a tough break. If we throw money at them, we can buy them off. We'll eventually placate them with money. So America's like, sure, we'll buy all your oil, we'll give you loads of money, and the EU and the UN, NATO, throw money at them. They'll be peaceful. But in the eyes of a Muslim, it's like, well, we'll take your money. Sure, give us all your money. It belongs to us anyway. You stole it from Allah. So they'll tell us exactly what we want to hear, and they'll take all that money off us, like we're seeing in Gaza now. But when it comes down to it, they will never stick to any of their bargains because their Quran tells them not to. So we're just throwing money away. We're paying for our own demise by supporting these guys. And it is, we're going to see quite soon where that leads us to.
All right, then. Finally, gentlemen, as we wrap it up, let's go around. So this is to each one of you, and I'll have a go at the end as well. So if you were thrusted, if God thrusted you into the position of Prime Minister of Great Britain, this is your first hour. You're in Downing Street. Everybody's standing around your desk. What will you tell all the people listening to your orders? What will you be doing in the first month?
I'll be going backwards, not forwards. All these MPs have always got these big slogans, how they're moving forward and moving forward. One of the things Corbett said, he says, 50 years ago it was much better. And I totally agree with that. Let's be honest, Islam's only been here for about 50 years, so it might explain quite a few of the problems. But I'd be going back, right? Because the policies of yesteryear were much better than the policies of today, right? We had more freedoms. I mean, the 80s was the best period for people to live in. And we seem to be in a world now where technology is getting better. So life should be getting easier and life should be better. But it isn't, even though the technologies are there. So there's obviously some dark force that's manipulating where we're going, right? And I think it doesn't matter who gets into be the Prime Minister, because he's not the one that's got the power, right? And I think whoever ends up with that job is instantly cursed, because they'll go in there with all the intentions, but they've got a puppet master.
But what changes would you implement, though?
What changes? Everything. Absolutely everything.
Give us your top few.
Oh, top few. I'd ban Islam, right? The practice of Islam, right?
Good
And that'll,
lad. You've got
that'll
my
go.
vote.
That'll go. That'll go down like a storm in a teacup. Then obviously people, they can either go more to our original Christian values in this country, or if they want to practice Islam, there's plenty of places they can go, right? Nobody's going to steal their property like the Muslims always say. They can quite happily sell it and take the money with them to the Islamic country. I don't like the new liberal democracy we live under. The word liberal and democracy kind of goes against each other, and a liberal democracy seems to be taking us down the LGBTQ path, and I don't like all this. So I'd have a lot stricter rules on that. I'll probably end up being looked at like a dictator by the end of my first month.
Corbett, what about you, mate?
To be honest with you, mate, Keir Starmer's not far off a dictator, is he? So, you know, you can't do any worse than he does.
Yeah, mass deportations of mainly the ones that have been coming in for the last 10 years and still can't speak English. For some reason, they've been living in hotels for 5 years. They still can't speak English. They've done something which has got them kicked out the hotel, and they're living in tents. Right? Surely they'd be better off in their own country.
You know what it says in the Quran about that, don't you? Allah only speaks in Arabic, so all other languages are seen as evil and immoral.
See? How are they ever going to assimilate with our country if they truly read the Quran?
That it's the opposite. They think we need to assimilate with them. They want to rub out English and British culture. We need to submit to Allah, surrender to Islam, and speak Arabic. And if we don't, chop chop, off with your head.
After going to unite the kingdom, I honestly believe they're going to have so many troubles trying to do that. I saw 3 million people who, and I'll be honest, you look at the Muslims when they're kicking off and the little Muslim riots. You think last year these riots, the first riots was something to do with a Romanian family who had their children took off them, right? And the local community, mainly Muslim, didn't agree, and they kicked off to get the kids back. right? That was the first one. And you look at these riots that you see, right? And these Muslims who walking around with sticks and this, they're not very big lads, you know, right? When I was at Unite the Kingdom, everybody towered above me, right? They were big, chunky, huge men.
Yeah, it's
right?
me,
And
man.
I was thinking, there's no way that Islam's going to be able to take over this country, not with what I'm seeing.
We've been joined by a good Christian brother, Dave. Dave, welcome. How are you?
Not bad, mate. How about yourself?
Yes, very good, thank you. We've got a strict panel today, strictly the true believers, shall we say? So when you said is the panel open, the answer is no, it's not. But we'll have people that are willing to follow the commands of God, shall we say? What did you have something to add? Did you have something to contribute? What's the honor? Because you're quite a star on YouTube these days, Dave. It's an honor to have you, mate.
I don't know about that, money. It would be great to get you on mine, though. You are a very interesting person, and I think my audience would like to.
Anytime you send out the invitation, I cannot say no to the Dave Smith, another potential future Prime Minister, or at least a councillor, head of the council. You know, the good people we need, like, you know, everybody on this panel, but excluding me, we need, you know, talking time is over. It's time to pick a position that you want to get elected for, whether it's member of parliament, whether it's a local, local councillor, and you know, get the votes in. Because if you everybody's saying the right things, you know, then the votes will tally up.
I think what's going to really look, digital ID is going to tell us really where we stand. Because how many people are actually going to comply, and if they do manage to implement digital ID on us, then I think we're finished, right? I think we're done. So
I think it's definitely going to happen. I mean, think about what a digital ID is. All it means is all your website passwords, your driving license, your passport, your Apple Watch and your phone, all these things that you log into with biometrics, passwords, you know, two-factor authentication, all of that stuff gets put in one thing. And it hasn't got a password, it hasn't got biometrics, it's controlled externally. You wear a token, they can switch it on or off. So the reason they will do that is to exclude you from services if you don't do what you're told. And we absolutely already participating in that to a certain degree. So I think kind of feel like that is definitely a thing that's going to happen. And that's, like Manny mentioned it earlier, God said you will be, a time will come when you're going to have to decide between following the law of the land and following the law of God. Which one you're going to choose? Because there'll be opposites at that point. That's what I think digital ID looks like it's going to be.
The digital ID is it's actually an individual battle, right? Because it's you yourself that will have to pick the path that you're going to go on. So if you're willing to suffer in the short to long term to resist this thing, then that is your decision to make. Like, there's no, I don't think there's as a collective we can defeat it, but every single one of us have to fight this battle individually. Just know what I mean?
100%.
So a lot of people, we can stand together in the street, we can protest. Really, when it comes down to it, it's you that is going to have to resist the chains of digital ID. So if you don't want the chains of digital ID being put on you, you yourself have to be willing to sacrifice. And in the short to long term, and you have to be willing to go without. Because other than that, if people are not willing to do that, then we'll lose. But it does come down to every individual.
I agree with you, but I don't think that even if all of us say no to it, which I hope is what we all do, the rest of the planet is still going to go along with it. It won't be everyone. 50-50 is an optimistic levy, I think. 50% of people saying no to it, 50% of people bending the knee to Satan. That's optimistic.
Let me actually add something in here. So every single legal, not illegal, but every single legal migrant that entered or enter the country via a visa approval is already on the biometric database, right? So that's the migrants taken care of. Now, those recently they've rolled out something called OneGov, which is a biometric database for self-employed people. And what they're saying is that you cannot submit your company accounts or pretty much anything else to HMRC, your company's house, unless you've got a OneGov digital ID. Now, I've been
Car
communicating.
insurance.
Sorry?
Car insurance. How are you going to feel when they say you have to have digital ID in order to apply for car insurance?
Correct.
You
And
can't
that's,
have a
that's
car without
exactly
it.
exactly the
Absolutely gonna do
plan.
that.
That's exactly
Yeah.
the plan. They
So it
will.
means I'm excluded from having a car. I can't have a passport, so I can't use air travel. I can't use the job centre, collect
Yeah.
benefits. I can't use the post office, send things in the mail. All of these things are going to come under digital ID sooner or later.
Mhm.
And I think Dave's absolutely right. When it's going to come down to you personally, do you stand with God, or are you just going to bend the knee to Satan?
So the digital, just to be clear, the digital ID itself isn't the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is the mark of the beast. But what we're really discussing here, that the digital ID is the start of what the Bible or God regards as the mark of the beast. But most importantly, the digital ID, once cash has become digital only, then we're really going to start seeing some evil things taking place.
Easiest way to look at it, call it check just before checkmate.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm
Yeah,
saying the
this-
car
yeah.
insurance thing because that's the thing that people use every day. But it could be something as bad as you can't turn your tap on unless you have digital ID on you. So if
No,
you
no,
literally,
no,
if they
no.
deactivate your digital ID, you go and turn a tap and no water comes out.
Well, this is where smart meters come in, because with smart meters, they know exactly what device you're using, whether or not that device is registered on any network. So, for example, if you have a smart meter and you're boiling a kettle 7 times a day to make a copper, they already know that, and that's in the database.
Yeah.
That's why you should never have got a smart meter.
I thought you were going to say that's why you should never have tea. And I was like, blasphemy. Get him out of it. Never. Yeah, with the insurance thing, right? Just reading through the Reliance of the Traveller in my kind of off moment. And what it says here is the messenger of Allah, who is Muhammad, prohibits insurance because insurance is equal to usury, right? So that means even though Muslims all have cars driving around with insurance, or most of them do, that is shirk. Having car insurance is shirk. So there's another clear indication that this religion of peace, Islam, by definition, even on a basic level, like driving a car safely, it is not compatible with our laws. And if we're saying Islam is equal to all the other religions, all the other cultural groups, then we have to say, okay, then Muslims don't have to have car insurance because it's against their religion.
But look at the law that they've recently passed, where if you are a migrant, then the judge can take it easy on you. Whereas if you are not a migrant, then the entire book of law will be thrown at you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Diversity was designed for that purpose. Splitting people up into minorities and then one by one persecuting them into oblivion, starting with the nation's, usual population, British people in our case.
So going back to Dave's question, what is the plan here? How do we fight and defeat the digital ID? All I can think of is praying to God and asking him to bring down with force his force in destroying this. But what else can we do other than prayer?
We had practice during the pandemic. The pandemic gave us practice.
Yeah, but one of the theories that's being floated, I don't know what you guys think of this at the moment, it's a national strike.
Oh,
well, it sounds very communist already. I'm not sure I like that. What we striking?
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not saying this is my idea. It's not something I've think, but that is what people are saying as a way of resisting this. People withdraw their services, people boycott shops, so on and such forth. So what?
Oh yeah, we're kind of already provisionally doing that. So that is a thing that I think people should do.
No, but people down tools on a large scale. People stop working. You stop using public transport. All these types of things.
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
country
do
down.
think that's the thing to do. But what we got to remember is, well, my interpretation of scripture anyway is very clear, is when this stuff starts happening in relation to the digital ID and the cessation of, services you need, food, water, car insurance, roads, that kind of thing. Non-participation means you are not participating in the evil, so you've stood with God, you've done your part, and if you endure till the end, you will be saved. But it's not going to stop the country grinding to a halt. And like you just said there, if we do this strike thing, we stop participating, we down tools, the country will grind to a halt and crumble on its own anyway. So what we're looking at is the destruction of all nations, the destruction of all governmental systems.
But that's a bit of a leap. That
is the essence of the beast system, is the destruction.
But that is a bit of a leap. If you was to hold this strike for say 3, 4, 5 days, well, no, it's to hurt the system financially. If you affect them with.
You're only doing it for 3 or 4 days, then they can absorb that. They're not gonna.
Well, then this is the whole. Well, the strike is a strike, right? It's however long you can hold out. Which side's going to buckle first?
But it'll be us. I absolutely. I mean, in the past,
you've jumped to the end where the country collapses. I would hope, preferably, we come out from benefit of argument. I would say, preferably, we would win that dispute and we wouldn't get to the point where the country ends. But the alternative is what? We've become slaves.
Well, that's what I mean about it's up to you to say no to that and then take the criticism and the punishment and sometimes it's going to be starvation, not having your car, being thrown out your flat, whatever. But it's not going to stop what the Bible is very clear in prophesizing the end of all nations.
So we've lost. So we're defeated. So we've lost.
Physically, we have lost, yeah, but it's a spiritual battle that we need to win, not the physical battle. That's what my interpretation of scripture is. We can see it everywhere. Now, I used to be like you, mate. I used to be very optimistic and think, yeah, if we all band together, we can do.
No, it's not. It's not optimism. It's not optimism. It's nature. It's either you fight or you don't. You choose which path you take. You sound defeatist to me. We've lost. We might just give it.
In a physical sense, I am defeatist because I know that's what my scripture tells me.
Yeah.
Is that we are going to.
You're spreading negative morale for the troops. You're poison. You're poison.
Bro, I didn't write the Bible. It's what the Bible says. It's not me. That's just what it says in there. It's God that's telling you that, not me. I'm saying I agree with
only God knows when the end is the end, right? For you to be saying that now is the end and this is where we're defeated and this is where we we don't know that.
But the point is there is an end. That's where I'm looking to.
There is. But me and you don't know when that will be. Me and you don't know when that will be.
It will happen. Whether it's in 10 years or tomorrow or 100 years, it will definitely happen. That's what I'm saying. There's no way we can avoid that because prophesied in the Bible that it will happen. And we have to endure until that happens.
But throughout history, mankind has stood up against oppression, right? And they have, to some extent, managed to be successful to some extent. And the world didn't end at that time. So like what we're saying is like, we can only deal with what we know and what we have right in front of us now. And what we are facing now is a government that is oppressive. But I don't think for a second that I don't think for a second we should allow them to have their way with us. I don't think for a second we should accept defeat because we are stronger than them. We are stronger than them. As we actually realized our strength and the power that we have, we can do anything that we want to do. It's just people, unfortunately, are divided and defeated. That's the issue.
It's all very well saying we're strong. That's true. We can defeat them. That's true. So what do? They flood us with Muslims. So now we're outnumbered. The law is against us, and that's what I mean. It's all very well
Your argument is
win, but we know there's only one person who can take on Satan and win. That's none of us.
Right. Okay.
Well, hasn't God given us the authority to take on and win? Because that's what Jesus paid the price for, right? So we are able to defeat Satan.
Well, that's not what it says in the Bible. The thing is with me, right? I physically believe that the Bible is a true account. I don't believe that it is soliloquy or poetry or analogy. I believe it is physically real and it's going to happen. And so far, it has been accurate. So, you know, for instance, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Revelations, and the Gospels all point to the fact that there is going to be end times. I used to say, no, there's not going to be end times. It's a analogy. No, there is going to be an end time.
Yeah, but end times doesn't mean now. It's not now times, is it? We don't know when end times is.
You don't know when the hour is any more than I do.
But that's what I'm saying. This is the battle that we could win. So if this is the battle that we can win, right? Realistically, we can win this battle, and there's no way we should allow this disgusting, pathetic regime to have their way with us.
So just to clarify, Dave is saying that fair enough, the Bible says this will happen, and it will happen, but why should the whole digital ID come into force on while we, as in us three, are here today in the next few years, if it's going to happen, not on our watch? Whereas COVID, you're saying that it's going to happen full stop. Dave is not arguing.
I don't think we're going to have any particular say in that. It's not about, I'm not saying we should down tools and not fight against it. We absolutely should keep fighting against it right up until the last breath. But I'm saying I don't expect that to generate a victory apart from a spiritual victory. I think it will definitely happen anyway. Whether we all fight against it or not, it's going to happen. It says in the Bible, we're fighting not against physical things. We're fighting against principalities and we're fighting against powers. Now, I take that to mean Satan. Satan is the principality and power of this world that we cannot fight against, that we cannot win against. Am I incorrect in saying? So in
end times, when people who are saved, they will go to heaven, right? And the ones that are not will be left behind. And you have the choice whether to fight the beast or not. So we still morally we still have a moral duty to resist and fight against the beast, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying fight all you like. That's what I do, but I don't expect to win. We're fighting a spiritual way. We're not fighting to get a physical. We're not fighting to get a physical victory. We're fighting to show that we are loyal to God's word. And even if we lose, we're still going to be loyal to God's word anyway. So it's not a case of physically winning a fight. It's not a case of winning at all costs. It's a case of sticking fast to the commandments of God, even in defeat.
Right.
We're not Muslims. We're not winning at any costs here. For instance, if you said to me, we can win this war and get rid of digital ID, all you need to do is kill a bunch of people in cold blood, I'll say no. I'm not doing that. So I'd win.
Yeah, but no one's advocating. We're talking about standing up to evil. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm saying stand up to evil. I'll be standing up with you, but I just don't expect that we're going to actually not have digital ID. I do think digital ID will be forced upon us. It's not a case of us arguing it in debate or you said it earlier. It's going to come down to the individual. At the point when they force you to have it, are you going to fight then or not? I say yes, I am going to. And, whatever punishment that they levy upon me for not taking it, I will have. But
so what about when they tried?
I don't expect to not have that moment.
So what about when they tried to implement the vaccine passport, and they was unsuccessful in doing that? What does that tell us? The fact that they tried to do that and it was unsuccessful, but they're still now going to go ahead with their plan of digital ID. Is that because they've got objectives and they try to carry them out regardless, or did that have no significant consequences at all?
Well, I've got to say, I don't really know anything about a vaccine passport, but I can tell you that 90% of people I know did get vaccinated, and the 10% of us that didn't were heavily criticised, and to this day we still get criticised. So in that way, 9 out of 10 people did bend the knee to that, whether it was mandated or not. They did it.
We were losing that. We were losing that war right up until they tried to mandate it for the NHS workers and hospitals.
Yeah. And he was defeated, right?
Yeah, there was a massive protest in London, hundreds of thousands of people, and the NHS workers all joined in the protest, and they were throwing their uniforms and their staff keys over the railings of Downing Street. If it wasn't for that protest, I reckon that would have been mandated.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope there's no more pandemics then. You know, it
They've
only takes
already
another
planted the next
pandemic
one.
for them to say, right, this is the second time this has happened. Now we are going to mandate it. That's probably what will happen.
That'll be how they get your health passport on your microchip.
Well, I just think, you know, it's not like there's not a trend for this happening. There is a trend for this happening, and it's, you know, in virtually every element of our lives. There's more stricter controls coming out every year, and you know, there's more stringent things that we have to do in order to get access to these services. For instance, I have a disability, right? I have a stoma, so I rely on the NHS for a really expensive prescription. I could never afford that stuff on my own. If I'm put in a situation where I have to do something to continue getting that prescription, saying no to that would mean the end of my life. So I'm pretty much going to have to say at that point, yes or die. So that's what I'm talking about. It's not mandated, but in my personal situation, if I don't bend the knee to that, I will physically die horribly and painfully and slowly, and there'll be nothing anyone can do about it because I rely on that.
At that point, we'll all be in the same boat, healthy or Knox. We all need to eat and drink. They'll have every single person.
I'm not expecting that moment will not arrive for me. I'm ready for that moment, whether it happens in my lifetime or not. If it does, I'm ready for it. I don't expect I'm going to be able to physically overpower the government or, you know, the powers that be, the principalities that of Satan or whatever, whoever it is, whatever it is. I don't expect me on my own with my loud, gobby voice is going to be able to overpower that. The best thing I can do is show loyalty to God and say, I will fight it until my last breath.
I had Jesus tattooed on my right hand, ready for that moment. Jesus stood at the temple and he held a coin and with the face of Julius Caesar on it. And they said, what belongs to God, right? And what belongs to Julius Caesar when he was kicking the lenders out of the temple. He picked up a coin with Julius Caesar's face on it, and in his hand, he held it up and said, what belongs to Caesar, give to Caesar, and what belongs to God, give to God, right? From that minute onwards, I thought, so I need Jesus on my hand so that when they want to put that microchip in the back of my right hand, I can tell them, look, that belongs to God.
Like I said earlier, people are going to have to sacrifice. And it's how much you're willing to sacrifice to resist this. And that's the only way it's going to happen. People are going to do this on the basis of convenience. And that's a sad state of affairs. So a lot of people are going to comply because they simply just want it to be, they just want life to be as convenient as it possibly can be. But if people don't rise up and they don't actually say, I'm not going to comply, then we are heading down the path of 15-minute cities, social credit score, and we will be slaves.
100%.
This is the alternative. It's not an exaggeration. It's not conspiracy. Like, they are genuinely pushing us towards a social credit score, which will mean we will not have the right to criticize the government.
Just look how many face recognition cameras are popping up all the time. They're doing. Do you know it? I find this mind blowing. Right, round here, right, apparently Birmingham Council's bankrupt. Round here, right, they're spending millions on tram lines, right? Tram lines everywhere. All the high streets are getting speed ramps and speed bumps, right? They're putting so much money into construction of stations and hotels and stuff by these tram stations and stuff. It's unreal. Well, one of the most expensive things a council can do is construction, but yet they're bankrupt. None of this stuff makes sense unless they are leading us to 15-minute cities, the ban of private transport, right, and all the things that the World Economic Forum have told us are coming.
But mate, earlier, like you said, because you hit the nail on the head in regards to the vaccine passport, what broke their back was people downing tools and nurses getting out onto the streets, and it stopped them from, because at one point they was pushing it hard, weren't they? You won't be able to do this, you won't be able to do that if you and they really did try to, but they was defeated on that issue. That's why I'm surprised that they're trying to implement digital ID now, because this government is so unbelievably unpopular, and they was unsuccessful with the COVID passport. So I just find it remarkable that they're trying to do this. So it's a strange one.
I believe we can delay it, but I don't believe we can end it. I'm with COVID on that one. Right? It says in scripture, all these things will come to pass. Right? All these things are going to happen. Right? I but also believe that's the reason why nobody will be able to give the day or the hour of when he comes back, because we can delay these things. The thing that scares me is if you look back in history, right? There's never been a time where they can do this. Now they can. Now we can do digital ID. Now we can put microchips in people's foreheads and back of hands, right? Everything is in place, ready to go. So are we really close, or can we delay it? I honestly couldn't hear the answer to that, but it will happen one day.
This right now is either a test, because I think because these people plan 50 to 100 years ahead, right? So they will. I remember a few years ago they tested the waters in regards to 15-minute cities, and the backlash they got was massive, and that is just disappeared now. Not officially, no one's talking about it, right? So they tested the water, they've seen the reaction. So like years ago, Tony Blair tested the waters with digital ID, got massive backlash. So maybe now is the time where they're testing the water again. And if they're defeated on this, they'll just push the plan another 10, 15, 20 years down the road. It's not going away. That is very true. It's not going away.
Exactly it. Right? You think how many times Tony Blair wanted an ID card, everyone went, no. So he disappeared for a while, right? Then they were on about health passports and that lot for COVID, which is basically a digital ID, right?
Yeah.
That went away, right? Now all of a sudden they swamped us with Muslims. Swamped us with Muslims, and now all of a sudden that plan they keep talking about is back in the open, because somehow now that will stop them working, and that makes no sense. Go on.
Which Nigel Farage back, by the way. Just for the record, to let people know, Nigel Farage back the COVID the vaccine passport. Nigel Farage back that. He said he did say we should listen to Tony Blair. So people just keep that in mind.
Yeah. I don't trust Nigel Farage whatsoever. I don't. But yet again, like COVID said, we're not meant to put trust into a man. We've got a big problem there. But there's nobody in politics really that you can trust.
The government is importing division, and they know the one thing that doesn't really integrate, and it is Islam. Islam is that one thing that will separate societies and cause division, and they know by importing Islam, it gives us this divide and rule, because they've given Islam a protected status, right? We've seen that how they're operating in regards to that. So people feel less than there's a lot of resentment being built up, and I think it's being built up purposely, and that they're creating a divide and rule, so that they're constantly doing things to distract us. So we have to, like the trans issue, they made a thing out of that, and for years people was occupied having to fight on the basis of whether a biological woman could be a biological male, and they distracted a lot of people for a lot of time. But the issue with these things are, you have to fight them. You have to fight it where you see it, because it is dangerous. A biological male being given access to a biological female only space is a danger to women. So people did have to push back and fight against that. But ultimately, they create these problems to distract us. And Islam's one of them, and immigration's one of them. And they're just constantly divide and rule all the time. And they've occupied us with so much shit. They've purposely lost control of their own border to create the situation that we now currently have, because it has preoccupied so many people.
Order out of chaos. That's what it is.
Did anyone notice in 2016 we voted to leave Europe? We never actually left Europe. Like, has everyone noticed that even in 2016 we never had control of our borders?
No.
Because we voted to leave Europe, and on paper we left Europe, and we think that we're out of Europe, and it's like we're even more in Europe than we ever were now. We've got more European laws. We've got less control over our own fishing waters and travel inside and outside of the country. You know, we never got those shiny blue Boris passports that we were promised, and I don't think people really realize it's not so much about this government being a bad government compared to others. It's about somebody else is controlling who gets put in the government role, and they're just talkers. They don't actually make decisions. They're just there to pat us on the head and tell us that everything's going to be fine, so we don't do anything.
Correct.
And it's just to make their life easier. So who is
their
really
strings
controlling
pulled.
things? Who is really the power behind this country making those bad decisions and throwing us guys like Keir Starmer with poor excuses that we all hate?
Follow the money.
Well, there's lots of different theories on that, yeah. Of
Follow
who
the
Like
actually
you
is
said
running
about
the show.
Nigel Farage, like we've been given, who do you like? Do you like Keir Starmer? No. Oh, well, okay, then do you like Nigel Farage? It's like, no, I don't like him either. It's like, give us a decent, honest, Christian, British politician who was born and bred here with a good family, and we'll vote for that guy. But they never, ever do.
You won't
That's-
find him. He doesn't exist.
That's what I mean.
It's
This
not
is
like
why
those
you
guys
guys
don't
need to
exist.
stand up.
It's not like those guys don't exist. Those guys do exist, but the fact is they will never ever be put in politics. And as soon as they start doing well, gaining good popularity, the media will absolutely shell at them, ruin their reputation. So you
The
ask
last one-
yourself,
Do you
who's
still have
running
faith?
it?
Do you still have faith in the infiltrating the political system money? Do you think it can be infiltrated and used to our advantage, or do you think it's gone?
I agree with Corvid where they're saying that the political system has been turned into a complete show. So all these cabinet members, they're just actors. I mean, they are not my words. That's Andrew Brigden, who's been an MP. Who literally said that they're just given a piece of paper saying this is what you're going to go out to the press and pretend that you are now releasing to the world, whereas other people within different rooms making these decisions, the true policy makers. So we need to look at people like Tommy Robinson. They tried their best to discredit him, but his fan base keeps growing. So that gives us an indication that it is definitely possible. But before the country starts on this route, what they need to do is develop certain principles. For example, are we going to put first and foremost British people that were born and raised in this country first and foremost? If we all say yes to that, then everything else that does not fit in with that agreement, with that principle, can then be removed. For example, if you don't speak English well enough, you are not part of the British Christian culture, and you haven't really integrated, thank you very much for your non-input, but we would now like you to go back. But we need to do it with integrity. So if they bought a property, we're not going to say, oh, thank you very much, that goes to the taxpayers. The taxpayer, instead of funding foreign wars and foreign murders, that taxpayer should be used to buy that property at a fair market value, so the property market doesn't crash, and they themselves are treated well, and therefore can leave the country with due care and respect. So these, by establishing correct principles, then we can move forward. And unfortunately, some people are going to lose out, but the other side of that is what we're experiencing, that foreign criminals, gangs of men are raping our daughters because they are not part of their culture, part of their ideologies. There's not just Muslim mosques, but there's other religious buildings being created in the middle of the cities that don't really quite fit in and create certain levels of hostility. Not all of them, but sometimes they are an eyesore and they're not really welcomed. And we've seen look at some of these beautiful English villages. It's like there's 70 people living in them. Well, not anymore. Your local hotel just You're stuck in 200, migrants that have just come over from a war-torn country that happens to hate your culture and your religion, and are now following your daughter home as she walks home from a job from the local Costa Cafe. There's a lot of strong things that needs to be done, but unfortunately not everyone's going to be able to come out as winners here. What are we going to promote? Are we promoting God? Which God are we promoting? Are we promoting family? Are we promoting the British culture? What is it that we are protecting and promoting? Once we establish these principles, then everything else will really kind of stand in line, and we've just got to make some strong decisions.
That's when you look backwards.
Scripture is
So we need a Christian revolution then, and people need to take a step closer back to God, and the church needs to start playing a role in our communities again.
I think the right question is, I think the right question is, how do we give complete governance to God? How do we remove any chance of corruption, of any chance of this ridiculous fake democratic system continuing? How do we put a full stop in it, apologize and repent and say, right, God, take control, you know best? That's what we should be racking our brains and finding in the Bible indicators of how we should go about doing this.
That's above my pay grade, that is.
Well, I think if you stick to what the Bible actually tells you, you can pray and God will tell you the same thing. Is Christianity is practical mainly. Yes, there's a lot of doctrine and theology there, but like we were saying earlier, theology is one thing, practice is another. If you don't practice what you preach, then you're not really a Christian, are you? Just a hypocrite. So in terms of practicing what the Bible tells us, we know whether the government tells me to do XYZ thing or not, I know how to behave. God has already told me how to behave. And if people are coming into this country who do the opposite of that, then I know how to behave in relation to them. I'm also told to do that. So it comes down to personal responsibility. Don't wait for the government to tell you this is moral, this is what you should do. Don't wait for your celebrities or your politicians to tell you pick up your tools or go and do this fight or whatever. Just know God has already told you exactly how to behave, what to do. And everyone individually needs to take up that cross and walk with it and stick to the commandments of God. And if we're all doing that individually, it doesn't matter what the government and the politicians or celebrities are doing.
You're talking on the basis of being saved. We're talking on the basis of taking back our society. We're talking on the basis of taking back our society and not being ruled over by psychopathic lunatics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying every single day when you get up and leave the house to go to work or whatever it is you're doing, do what God has told you to do in every situation you can do it in, and you'll not set a foot wrong. Whereas if you're thinking, well, I can take advice from this guy or this celebrity or this politician so I can get my own way, it's like that's going to lead you nowhere. It's going to lead you nowhere good. That's what people are doing. They're waiting for cues from celebrities, politicians, or whatever. They need to be told by someone else what to do. And it's like, no, if you're going to follow someone's commandments, let it be God. Everyone else let you down.
I think people were able to do that a lot better, a few decades back. I think now with the education system the way it is and how it brainwashes people how to think or not to think, people cannot make that switch easily, i.e. relying on God and waiting for God for the answers. They just want to type something into Google and see what the answer is there and then.
Yeah. Well, you asked earlier, if I was the Prime Minister, what would be my first action? And I immediately thought, well, it wouldn't matter what my actions were in the job because I would have no power. I'm just a spokesman. Yep. But I thought, if I was the Prime Minister, you know what I would do? I would just be a good example of a basic, normal guy who is a Christian. And I'd let everyone look into every area of my life and see how I behaved and made sure that I behaved like a good Christian. And I'd be condemned and I would be sacked and told that I was rubbish or whatever. I'd be criticized. But in the eyes of God, if I was right, then people would see that and they would know that's the example to follow, and they'd be good Christians too.
Is that not what the royal family should be doing? Is that not what the royal family should be doing?
Yeah, they absolutely should, but they're not. They haven't done that for a while.
they should be the example, yeah, but they've been dysfunctional for quite some time.
Well, you know, giving yourself a title like Defender of the Faith, that kind of says that you should be given an example. But I mean, we're just not seeing it. So, you know, like I say, Jesus gave us a great example that we're never going to reach. You know, in terms of a battle, it's a battle we're going to lose, but we're going to lose it with dignity in the right way. And then God will pick up the slack for us. You know, our life will be producing a good fruit rather than just purposeless nonsense and sinful.
I feel like we're in the embryonic stages of a patriotic revolution. Something is happening. Where it's going to go, I'm not sure. I don't know what you guys' opinion is in regards to patriotism. Do you see that as a conflict of interest? Can you be a patriot and a Christian? Or
well, I'm part of the
Bob
kingdom
has
of
quite...
God, mate. My patriotism is towards the kingdom of God, so I'm already a patriot, really, but just not one in terms of, you know, what the government's doing or what the country's doing.
Right. Okay.
Above all, I'm a Christian, but I was at Unite the Kingdom, so yes, I'm there all the way.
Yeah. That's how I stand. And if you
let's be honest, the Crusades were Christians who were fighting back, so it's happened in history. So I can't see any conflict.
A lot of the patriotic movement are quite staunch atheists, though. Like you mentioned God to them, and they I don't know, they become demonic type thing. So there is an issue there in regards, and a lot of them are very individualistic, out for themselves. At the same time, they don't see how their actions and behaviors has led the country in the path that it has. And now we've, you know, that's a good
point. That's a good point, and this is why I'm enjoying what Tommy is doing increasingly, where he's integrating his movement with the Christian movement. I do have a lot of respect for Tommy for that reason.
Yeah, that always had to be the end game. That was always the path, and thankfully he's taken that path, and hopefully he does, because he can bring a lot of people to Christ. He can, whether people like that or not. Obviously, I'm a Tom Robinson supporter. Some people aren't, whatever. But he would get a lot of people on board, which I think is a good thing.
Tommy walks out of jail wearing a crucifix. And I thought, yeah, that solitary confinement, he's been thinking in that.
And what we also need to remember is that there is, I feel that this left versus right thing is another divide and conquer strategy, because when you actually listen to the arguments of the left, the normal left, not the extreme left, you can see that they are trying to be good people, and they actually think genuinely what they are following and agreeing with is the right thing. They're not being evil. They're not being purposely. They're not being kind of hateful. They think honestly, with their hand on their heart, that is the best thing to do. And whereas, you know, we take the other side of the spectrum, and they will say the same about their cause, though of course the right wing, I would say personally, has a lot more evidence of doing the right thing than the left, because tyranny always comes from the left. But what I'm saying is that I'm beginning to feel increasingly that there's a big amount of kind of divide and conquer happening here, and we should not write either. I don't know where every single one of you guys are exactly, but
we're in a culture war. Yeah, we're in a culture war, and it's raging.
So if God can forgive us for the things that we have done wrong, then we should also be open to forgiving others for anything that they have mistakenly, willingly or not willing to do. You know, so we can be friends and get along, because like Dave said, it's, you know, we're all in this together, and we all have to pull together, and you can't really bring people to God without speaking to them, and to speak to them you've got to kind of put your knives down, so to speak.
Compassion.
Yeah, indeed. What would you, if you became Prime Minister, Dave, what would be the first thing you say to those standing around your desk in the first hour? What you are about? What changes will you be bringing in that month?
Leave the ECHR. Detain everyone that's here illegally and deport them. Every foreign-born person that's here and is not working, I'd deport them also. I don't see why we're importing people to sit on benefits. And then I would. This is a hard one. How do you uphold democracy and deal with Islam? That's always the. That's because you could say ban Dawa, right? The promotion of. Then you'd find certain Muslims would deport themselves. Cultural Muslims wouldn't have.
What about reclassifying Islam as a terrorist ideology?
That's what you'd have to do, yeah.
But this is the thing. I think when people say ban Islam, I think that would actually just attract more people to it. Because you know, people who believe, oh, well, if you ban it, people will go, well, it must be true. Then there's those type of people, right?
Yeah, true. But when you actually show them evidence that it's the targeting of all non-Muslims based on X, Y, and Z, then it would, you know, I mean, with it's Action. What was that Nazi group? Action something. That was banned. You didn't get any more people joining them, did they?
National Action. National
That's the
Action.
one. Yeah, that's the one. So you didn't get people joining them.
If you banned halal, if you banned head coverings, if you made it you can't have any signage on your buildings, you can't promote your ideology at speakers corner, you can't have your stalls, you can't have call to prayer. But if you are a spiritual Muslim, you can practice your religion in your home, won't really affect your life in reality. But the ones that are hardline, the ones that do, you know, the Ali Dawas, your Muhammad hijabs, they've got a choice. It's either you comply or you leave. And if you don't leave and you don't comply, you go to jail.
You'd be a dictator like me then.
I'm absolutely bemused about this ideal of a cultural Muslim or a moderate Muslim. Like anyone who's studied the Quran knows, these are just propaganda terms. There is no such thing as a cultural moderate Muslim.
Well,
There's only a slave of Allah or a free man. There's the only two things you get. A slave of Allah is a Muslim, and not slave of Allah is a kufir. That's the only two things you get in Islam.
You have individuals, my friend, you have individuals in these communities that don't believe what they say they believe, but they won't say they don't believe it for fear of being attacked by their own community. So they just pretend to go along with it.
Then they're a slave of Allah. You've just said they will not speak openly because of fear. Then they're a slave of Allah.
Right. Okay.
Well,
so we should punish them.
A slave means you don't have a choice. You have to do it. Otherwise, you'll see violence. So they're a slave of Allah then, aren't they?
So what do we do with those people then?
Well, try and liberate them by banning Islam and saying you can stay here if you don't have Islam and you fight against Islam or you see it as part of British law. And if they don't like
why would you need to ban it though? That's not the logical way of going about it. That doesn't make sense. Everything I've just proposed there would make it. Everything I proposed there would make it very, very difficult for Muslims to be Muslim in Britain, because there's not really anything more you
wouldn't. I disagree.
What do you mean? Muslims are taught that if they're in a non-Muslim country, they have to promote their religion for a start. So then we do actually live by the letter of the religion. They would be obliged to leave.
So how well do you know the letter of their religion? Have you read a Quran at all?
What? Have I read the Quran?
Yeah, have you studied the Quran? Do you know the Quran well? Like as well as you would know another book?
To some extent, yeah. To some extent, yeah.
So that's my point, is the way that you're treating Islam isn't the way that Muslims treat Islam. This is the way that they present it to us, thinking that we're ignorant Westerners, you know, we're stupid, unknowing unbelievers. And they do that in order to manipulate our views so that they can freely practice. But if we know their Quran, if we've actually studied it, we know there is no such thing as moderation. There is no such thing as modernization in Islam. These are things they put in front of us to lead us, like a carrot with a donkey. You know, they want us to go over here. They're going to put the carrot in our face.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding me. I'm not the individual that would use a term such as extreme Islam. There's no such thing. There's just Islam. But what I'm saying to you is,
when you say you're going to make it harder for them to practice their religion by saying you can't do prayer in the streets and stuff like that, they will say, okay, yeah, we won't do prayer in the streets then. And they will develop another way, which is even worse than doing prayer in the streets. For instance, they'll start doing it in their cars or at work, or they'll stop traffic by doing it inside their car. And they'll say, well, I'm inside my car. I'm not in the street. Like, this is what they've done forever. And the only
So go
way
on
to
then,
get around
break
that is
down
to say, we're not
break
gonna
down
play your game.
break down the logistics of banning it then.
Well, the logistics of banning it is not allowed in any way, shape, or form. Anything
Okay, so
Islamic is
so at
banned.
home, how do you stop them practicing Islam?
Well, it's banned. So if anyone reports that they're doing it, the police will go in, and if they find evidence of it, they will be arrested for practicing an illegal
Yeah.
cult religion, won't they? They'll be
Yeah,
chucked in
yeah,
a
yeah.
prison.
How are you going to enforce that? How are you going to know if someone at home is practicing Islam? You're going to put cameras in
Because
their homes.
somebody will. The same
Somebody
way
will
any
what?
crime- So, can you let me answer then? You're just going to talk over me. It's the same as any other crime. Somebody makes a report, the police go and collect evidence. If the evidence justifies that the crime has been committed, then arrests are made.
Yeah. How would I know what you're doing in your home? How would I know what you are doing in your home? How would I know that to report you?
Well, obviously, someone would have to catch you, wouldn't they, and see you doing it?
Yeah. Okay. It sounds
So
very
what
logical.
you're saying, what you're effectively saying is, we can't stop Muslims from burying themselves in a closet underneath the ground where no one can see them and secretly saying, verses out the Quran, but then acting on the surface like they're not. If they're doing
No,
that,
what I'm
then they're
saying
not being-
is,
they're not.
what I'm saying is the practicality of what you're saying is not really you ban Islam. So a Muslim at home is still practicing Islam. There's no
But
way
he's
you're
not,
going
though.
to know that. What do you mean
You
he's
don't know the
not?
Quran.
What kind of utopia?
What you're saying is factually incorrect, though, because in the Quran it stipulates what you have to do in order to call yourself a Muslim. And in order to call yourself a Muslim, you do not hide in a closet and secretly practice and then not do it outwardly.
So
if
how
you're
is that
doing
different to
you're
what
not a
I
Muslim.
proposed then? How is that different to what I put forward?
It's not a
But
realistic scenario, what you've proposed. It wouldn't ever happen.
You're-
What I'm
hold on.
proposing is difficult, but it is a realistic thing. But
Right,
what
right.
you're
So
proposing is virtually it wouldn't make any difference anyway. Even if it was possible, it wouldn't make any difference.
how are
Like,
you
what
not
you're saying
understanding?
is- what you're saying
How are you
is
not
if people
understanding
can
what I'm
hide-
saying?
I do
That is
understand, and it's
hilarious.
free, Dave.
That is
I'm saying the
hilarious.
fact- I'm saying the fact is, your point is an exclusion rule of saying if a Muslim can hide in a cupboard and secretly read the Quran, but then not do it in front of everyone else, then how can we stop people doing that? And I'm saying I don't care about that guy.
And we've
I'm saying the
we've
Muslim needs to be
established,
banned.
my
The
friend,
Muslims need to be
you're not
banned.
using critical.
The
You're not
Muslims in the police
critical.
force need to be banned. The Muslims in the military need to be banned. The Muslims in the political system need to be banned. The Muslims making the rules that apply to me and my religion need to be banned. And Qurans sitting next to Christian Bibles in bookshops need to be banned. Those are the outward
And we've
things that need to be
established.
banned.
We've
Who cares about
established.
the guy sitting in his closet? No one cares about that guy. He doesn't exist.
We've established by banning it, it doesn't stop them from still practicing it in their
No,
own
you
homes.
haven't. You just stipulated that with a suggestion. I don't agree with that either. That's like saying, "Oh, why do we ban smoking then?"
You're not thinking logically.
No,
Like,
I am.
how
I'm
do you-
saying to you, just
How
because
is some?
people
How are
break
you
the
going
law
to
doesn't
know?
mean
How are you going to know that a Muslim is practicing their faith in their own home? How will you know?
I'm not saying you have to. It's a ridiculous thing to suggest. For instance, Dave, do we have a law that
Yeah,
says
you
you cannot
pivoted now.
murder? Do you have a law that says you cannot murder people? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you agree that that's a good law that we should have? Yes. Does it prevent all murders? No. So it's still a good rule to have, despite the fact that people still commit murders. And in that same way,
I just
we
think
should
it's a
ban
very
Islam.
shallow. It's a
Even though
very
people
shallow way
still
of
do it,
thinking.
we should
By
ban it
thinking
on
you
purpose.
ban something, it doesn't work. We've banned drugs for a very long time. They're still prevalent in our societies. It doesn't make a
But they're
difference.
less than they would be had we
You
not
you
banned.
have to be a lot smarter. And if you made it to where you can't have halal, you can't have the head coverings, you can't have signage on your buildings, you can't promote it anywhere publicly, you can't speak about Islam publicly, you can't do any of these things, it would make life a lot difficult for these individuals, and they would pick another country where they could go and freely be Muslims. For you just to ban it, for you to ban it, it is no different to what I'm saying. It's just you won't be able to enforce what you're saying, because a Muslim can still be a Muslim at home. It's the only way you enforce that is by putting a camera in everyone's homes and knowing what they're doing in the privacy of their own homes.
Unrealistic. That's absolute nonsense. I don't buy into that at all. Go back to the thing that I said about murder. Murders still happen despite we got a law against it. Does that mean we should not have the law just because it can't 100% be enforced? No.
What I'm saying to it, by banning it, it would actually attract more people to it. That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
well,
to you.
let's okay murder. Let's not have a murder law then, because it obviously attracting people to the murder law. The fact that
If you shadow ban it, if you shadow ban it, if you shadow ban it, it will be a lot more effective. That's just my opinion.
What, you're saying if we say on the sly that you can murder people, then it will be more effective.
They're not comparable.
That doesn't make sense.
It's not comparable.
Can I
Why
jump
is it
in a
not
sec?
comparable? It's a law that's enforced that 100% of people should do, but 100% of people
We're
don't
talking
do.
about
Doesn't
how
mean
to
it's a bad
deal with
law.
an oppressive ideology such as Islam. We're not talking about, you're comparing it to murder. Murder is an act, and it is an act that is widely accepted to be unacceptable.
Practicing a religion is an act.
I don't understand why you're so like bothered about the suggestion
I've
of banning
studied
the
the Quran,
promotion of
why?
Islam when you're
Because I
simply
actually
saying
know what I'm
ban the
talking about with the
ideology,
Quran.
ban the ideology, which would ultimately lead to more people being drawn to
No,
it,
it
because ultimately they'll
wouldn't.
think
No,
because it's banned,
that
it
is
must be true. It will happen.
No, it won't. That's absolute rub. I do not believe
Of
that.
course
in
it
the
is.
slightest
Yeah,
because
yeah. It's a very
it
shallow
doesn't
way
make
of thinking.
sense, Dave. Okay, you explain to me how that works then. You explain to me how banning a cult murderous ideology that puts people in a serious lack of their natural rights, how does banning that increase the practice of it?
It's the way. It's just human nature, innit? It's unfortunate. People are
No, it
gullible.
isn't.
They're
You can't just say
deceptible.
that. You have to show me a precedent or evidence or suggest some logical reason why that is the case. You can't just say that.
Drugs are banned. Have they gone anywhere?
They've gone down a lot, yes. People know they're
They've
bad.
gone
yes.
down a lot. Yeah, you don't. You
Yeah.
have no life experience, my friend.
As being
Drugs,
a serious
drug,
ex-addict, I think I do, mate, actually.
drugs are everywhere. Them being illegal has made no difference.
Apart from they are a lot less prevalent.
Can I jump in?
Allegedly.
Right.
Sure. Go ahead, Jordan.
Well, when it comes to the drugs, a few years ago they banned all legal highs, and ever since then it's been a lot harder for people to get their hands on legal highs. Right. Also, around the same time they brought in a law where Christians were banned from praying within a certain distance of abortion clinics. Somehow they managed to police that, and they also managed to police words of tweets. So surely they can find a way of policing if people are practicing Islam, even in their own homes. There'll be clues. For a start, you've just got to look at the wife. The wife will be wearing normal clothes if they're not practicing Islam. If they're practicing Islam, surely she should still have to cover her.
Yeah, this is
Exactly.
where
And
we're heading down authoritarianism
is-
here. This is a
the
problem.
fact is, you have to ban bad things. It's not authoritarian dictatorship to say you don't want to have legalized bad things. You know, like murder and rape are bad things, so we ban them. It's not authoritarian. It's reasonable. It's moral.
It's a fascinating debate, I must admit, because we're touching on the, you know, though it is theoretical, we're touching on the topics and conversations that people are actually having. I come across people having this conversation when I'm out and about, just between them in a conversational way. So, you know, I must admit it's been fascinating listening to this. But
I'm
you know,
absolutely
I think
shocked,
both of you had good points.
I'm surprised to hear any Christian would disagree with what I've said, because it's scripture. It's literally God has told us that. God says, I think it's like Leviticus, or it's one of the early first 6 or 7 books in the Bible. We should not accept evil foreign pagan customs as our laws. That's a fact. That's God saying that verbatim. So why are we saying, oh, well, we can't ban them, even though God told us that we should never accept them? Why should we accept them now when God's told us not to?
So why ban it? So why ban it then? Why not just deport them all?
Because God said don't accept the foreign customs. He didn't say don't accept the foreign people. He said the customs. The customs are the laws, the traditions, you know, the Sharia. That's what we need to ban.
10 Commandments says no false idols and no worshipping any other god other than him.
Exactly. Why are we not doing that?
No,
You
This wouldn't
Jesus
work.
said love is the
That's-
whole of the law. How is it love when you've got 7 wives and 4 of them are under 15? How is it love when you're saying you can't be friends with Jews, Christians, apostates, atheists, pagans, Buddhists, anyone else, and you want to kill them for the day of judgment? How is it moral to accept that as equal to something like Christianity, which says love, feed and clothe thy neighbor, bless your enemies?
Yeah, but who's accepting that? Because it's not me.
Well, no, I'm saying you don't have to accept it, though. The law has to encourage it. Not everyone follows the law, but having that law is a huge benefit to people being moral because it enforces morality through the police and through the governmental system. Without that, we're going to end up with Sharia or even worse, communism. And then, it's just evil. I mean, look at the other countries that have had that. Look at the Soviet Union with their communism. They've murdered millions of people, completely collapsed, and now they've got Russia. Look at China. 90% of their population starves, but people only see the fancy bridges and the fake robots and stuff like that and think China's great because you're not allowed to talk. That's what we're dealing with. But if we follow God's law, then we don't have to deal with that. And it doesn't come down to whether the government agree with it or not, because it's God's law. So if we all uphold God's law, the government will bend the knee to that.
See, this is the thing. That's why I don't understand that. 'Cause the thing that I'm talking about is in regards to banning Dawa. Like, it means Sharia courts are gone. It means the Muslim Council of Britain is gone. It means there will be nothing in Parliament that would be in any way, shape, will ban cousin marriage. All of these things would be effective in making it to where people would struggle, find it extremely hard to operate in this country as a Muslim. But you just want to outright ban it, which really isn't that much difference. The only difference is you want to go to the extent where you want to police what they're doing in their own homes. I don't think that's effective, and I don't think
we already
it's,
police what people do in their own homes anyway.
But that, to be clear, this is what you're advocating for. You think we can actually
I am advocating
enforce
for that. I'm saying
something where we can control what people are doing in their own
You're
homes?
not allowed to do whatever you like in your own home. I don't care.
Yeah,
what
but
anyone
people
says.
still
You're
do.
not allowed
But
to
people
do
still
whatever
do.
you like in
But
your own
people
home.
still do. But
You're
people
not
still do.
allowed to. It doesn't matter whether they do. The law says you should.
Exactly.
Not do
So
those
how do you? The law can say what it likes, but how do you enforce that law?
Well, we have a
Tell
law
me, please,
saying that
how
you
you enforce
beat up
that?
your wife in. You're not allowed to beat up your wife in the
But it
home.
happens. But it happens.
But the point is, your wife can tell the police and have you arrested. So then you will not
Yes,
do it in future.
yes.
So it
So-
enforces, even though you have an evil soul, that you have to behave well. And that is not compatible with Islam. So if we
There's
ban the
a
Islamic
disconnect
view
here.
on
There is
domestic
a disconnect
abuse,
here.
and we go back to what we had before that in British law, then that is a marked improvement. Even though 100% of people aren't robots like you're suggesting, some people are still going to break the law. The probability of them being punished and not repeating it is far higher than if we
No, I'm
just say,
talking
well,
about enforcing it and the practicality of it. How
Then
will
change the
you
argument,
be
because
able
what the
to
argument
how will
was-
you be able to arrest Muslims for practice? I think that is extreme, to be honest with you. Criminalizing thingy for it's like someone wants anyway. Yeah, obviously there's a massive disconnect there, but enforcing that, I don't think it'll be possible. But you think it will, so we're never going to
I
agree
do
on
think
that.
it will, and I think it's absolutely essential that we do that. It's required if we want our country to stick together and not be completely dissolved.
So how will you know that someone's practicing
No, you
the
can't. Look, I'm
Islamic
not going to
faith
have
in
this
their home?
repeated argument. You cannot mandate for the odd person, but you don't make rules on exceptions, right? So
But it
you
wouldn't
make
be the
rules
odd
for
person, it would be
everyone
all
else.
of them. It would be all of them.
Then it wouldn't be hidden, would it?
There are millions of Muslims across this country right now, right, who are more likely have been or are praying. None of us know or are aware of it. So how will you be aware that they're doing
allowed
this?
to pray. I'm not saying they shouldn't pray. They can pray all day long. I don't care about that. I'm
But that's
saying
exactly
in
the same as
relation
what
to
I've been
they
saying
do
then.
in relation to what they do in their religion that breaks our law, those things should be
So you've
banned
not
because
listened
they
to
are
what I've said
illegal
then.
anyway.
You've not listened to what I've said. I said if they want to practice the ideology in their own homes, that's fine. But outside of their homes, there will be no acknowledging, no promotion, no nothing of Islam.
Even in their own homes, if what they're doing is illegal, there should be laws against it. And those
You just
laws
said
should
they
be
can
enforced.
pray in their own homes. You just said they
But
can pray in
praying
their own
isn't
homes.
against the law.
So when
Praying
you
in
ban
their homes is not
Islam,
against, you know,
so
if
when
they
you
wanna
ban
say a
it,
silly little prayer, they could be
so
doing
when
a
you ban
performance. It doesn't
Islam,
matter.
so when you ban Islam, they're still allowed to practice it in their own homes.
No, because practice and prayer is not the same thing. Practicing Islam is not just saying a prayer. I can say a shahada now as part of a dramatic performance. It doesn't mean I'm practicing Islam, does it? So it doesn't mean I have to ban people doing adverts with Dawah in, or a dramatic a sitcom of Muslims in,
So they
or
can't read the
a film
Quran.
or something
They,
would be okay. But what
so
I'm
they
saying is the
so they
Quran
can't read
should
the
be
Quran at
banned
home.
as a doctrine.
So they can't read the Quran at home.
What do you mean they can't read the Quran? No, they can read the Quran as long as they're not practicing the religion. So, like, I've got a Quran in my hands now. I'm reading it now. It doesn't mean I'm practicing the religion, does it? So you can't ban me from reading a book for critical review because I'm going to make videos about what's in this book and I'm going to educate people of the evils of Islam. Whereas
We're
what
pretty
you're
much
saying
saying
is
this.
I should
We're
be
pretty
banned
much
doing
saying the
this, is
same
what you're
thing.
suggesting.
This is no, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but we're pretty much saying the same thing.
But you're saying it can't be enforced, whereas I'm saying I think it can be enforced. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to know what people are doing in their own homes. So you're obviously a lot more optimistic that you'll be able to know what everyone's doing at home. I think that's
Well, I
quite
think if
difficult.
someone's doing it, look, if someone's doing something completely in secret and it has no outward effects, it's like, well, who cares then? But the fact is,
There
as
you
soon as
go,
they
and
start doing it and it
that's what
breaks
I
the
was
law,
saying in the beginning, and that's exactly
but
what I was
when they,
saying in the beginning.
but what you didn't validate is when someone breaks a law, it creates a victim, so it is not secret anymore. That's why I'm saying it needs to be banned. When it's creating a victim, that victim should be thoroughly justified and given the justice they deserve under British law, regardless of whether it insults a Muslim's prophet or whether it, corrupts a Muslim pillar of Islam or whatever. If there's a victim under British law, then Islam should be culpable and punishable. That's what we don't
But
do.
let me just clarify my position. That's what I was saying in the beginning. Obviously, we'll agree to disagree. But for me personally, I think the way to deal with it is by banning the promotion of. So you can't speak about Islam in public. You can't have signage on your buildings. None of these things. You won't have Qurans in libraries or anything like that. We won't have the Muslim Council of Britain. We won't have Sharia courts. There will be Islam will play no role in public life. If you want to be a Muslim at home, that is your prerogative. That's my position.
Well, I mean, that's a bit part. I can't disagree with that being a good idea, but I still feel like it doesn't really go far enough. And I'll give you an example of a Quran verse so that you know what we're talking about, right? I've got a Quran here, the Tashweed Quran, which is like the modern, most usual one that you're going to find. And we turn to page 1, and we find Al-Fatiha, which is the opening prayer. The third line says, "Most gracious, most merciful Allah, who is master of the day of judgment, which you must believe." So we can't know whether someone believes in the day of judgment or not, just based on them being at home reading this, right? So that's not a crime. But if you know from having studied the Quran what the day of judgment entails, you know the way that the day of judgment is reached in Islam is specifically when Muslims murder all the non-believers. So at that point, there is a crime. When they start murdering non-believers, rather than what we're currently doing, making their excuses and saying it's Islamophobic to try and investigate them, we should throw the book at these guys and then say Islam is the reason they did that. We should ban that. Whether people can get away with reading a Quran in private and say they're not doing it to practice religion, that's fine. But at the point when they're doing racist, violent things and they're purposefully flouting and disobeying with British law, we know that is because of their religion.
You're arguing something here that doesn't need. You're arguing something here that does not need to be argued. Like who in the right mind is going to disagree with what you just said there?
No one. It's absolutely the
so.
thing that needs to happen.
You took a bizarre angle. Would you apply these things to other religions? Would you ban any other religions?
No, I wouldn't, because, well, unless there's another religion which causes that much problem and is that violent. But having studied several different religions, I don't find any of them to be this problematic and this violent, this anti-British. The only one I find to be a genocidal maniac's wet dream is Islam. That's the reason why I'm so hardline about banning it completely.
See, what we do have to address in this conversation is this is authoritarian. Like it is. Like when
No, it's
like
not. No, it isn't.
well, hold on. I'm just giving my perspective. You can give your perspective. I'm saying we are moving away from what is deemed to be democratic here. Like, for me personally, that's the way I see it. You obviously feel like you have a biblical justification for it. That's fine. Which I might not more likely won't disagree with. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of people will hear this conversation and go, "This is authoritarian. This is oppressive." So on and such forth. I'm just acknowledging.
Well, maybe they are going to say that, but at the end of the day, there's rapists out there who think the law is repressing them because they're not allowed to go and rape people. It doesn't mean it's a bad law that's authoritarian, does it? It means it's a good law, and they're just idiots who are bad people. So what do? Are we going to bend the knee to bad people? We're going to do what God's told us to do and make the bad people bend the knee to Him. I say the latter.
But this is the question: how do you deal with something that is colonialist, imperialist, supremacist? And uphold a democrat. It's difficult because if you look historically, throughout times of war, democracy has not really been upheld. But of course, there are people who are like hardline. We must stick to liberal values, but really, in reality, liberalism is going to be defeated by Islam. And when it is, we're all fucked. Pardon my language.
You can be excused for the one swear word. You've been pretty good so far. So I think the problem is with liberalism is it's a tool that people use to spring open a door that should stay locked. So Islam uses liberalism. It uses liberals to try and enforce its rules by saying you're oppressing us. And it's like, hang on a minute. We're oppressing your violence. We're oppressing the fact that you think you can walk all over our country, change all our laws. You can disrespect the culture that this country had when you arrived here. You disrespect our immigration system by lying on your forms in order to come here, and you bring 7 quote-unquote sisters who turns out to be your wives. That's how we're oppressing you. We're oppressing you into not breaking our laws and lying about your life so that you can do that. That's the kind of oppression we need more of. Like,
but that's the thing, isn't it? We
some bad things do need to be oppressed as hardline.
Well, that's the thing. We could get to the point where if in Britain one day it does become where it is 51% Muslim population, they could use the democratic process to have a referendum where we actually vote whether we should have democracy anymore or not. I might have explained that in a ridiculous way, but we could literally see one day them as vote to get rid of voting.
Well, they've already started the ball rolling with that. As soon as we recognize Palestine as an equal country, despite the fact that it isn't even a country yet, has no official laws, it has no prime minister, president, military, nothing like that, we have now said it's fair enough to have a discussion in the Commons here, a debate, a proper political debate about whether the Palestinian Bill of Rights should be equal to ours. So we've already said a really bad, violent, evil law which defeats British law, and we would all agree if it was put to a vote today and people knew the Palestinian Bill of Rights, every single person who is not a Muslim, and probably actually a lot of Muslims, would absolutely vote to ban it 100%. But because of the government who didn't ask us, they didn't give us a vote, shall we recognize Palestine? They never gave us that vote. They used BBC to brainwash people to agree with it, and then they just did it anyway. So that's what I'm saying. Democracy doesn't always work. Sometimes you've got to be hardline. I mean, look at World War II. It's not like people took a vote on where we were going to bomb civilians in Germany to win the war, but we did. It's not like Americans took a vote, should we bomb Hiroshima with a nuclear bomb? But they did, and they had to. And the effect of it in the long term was good. So it was like, had they took a vote on that, they would have lost the war. And the same with Churchill. If we'd have voted, should we bomb civilians in Germany? People would have said no, we would have lost the war.
No, I reckon they would have definitely said yes at that time.
When you're up against genocidal murderers who are going to lie to you and stab you in the back, i.e. Islam, sacrifices must be made. Otherwise, you're just admitting defeat. It's like you were saying earlier, even if you think you are going to be defeated, you should still fight.
100%, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying with Islam. Yes, it'll be difficult to enforce. Yes, there'll be opposition from the left and from Muslims. Yes, it might be criticized. Who cares? It's essential that we start trying. I will back that, and I don't care who calls me what. Who wants to criticize me, call me Islamophobe all you like. I will stand behind that. God has put the purpose in me to say Islam is the religion of Satan. We should ban it 100% and remove all supplicants of it for the benefit of our country.
it's an antichrist ideology, and it takes people away from salvation. And it was created by the devil, and it is the world's biggest cult. But at the core of Islam, it doesn't believe in equal rights, and it doesn't believe in freedom. So you're dealing with something that is about as dangerous as you can get. But I don't know. The left want to facilitate it and uphold it, and it's a massive problem.
A good
It's in line with
analogy is to
communism.
say we're sheep in a pen. Don't invite the wolf in. That's what we've done. We've invited the wolf in. So it's like, okay, it's going to be bloody and it's going to be difficult, but we need to get that guy out. Why have we banned Dave?
We
Is
haven't.
he?
No, he's
Oh, he's
voluntarily
oh,
gone
no,
on mute.
he's muted himself. Sorry, I didn't mean ban. I mean muted. Yeah, I've got to say, right, Dave and I, we've spent the last 20 minutes kind of arguing, but I actually agree with a lot of what he says. I just feel like the reason why he won't go as far as I'm going is because he hasn't studied the Quran or hasn't experienced the Islam faith directly, head to head, the way that I have been doing. But I can tell he's a guy with solid morality who's got good Christian faith. So I think in the fullness of time, Dave Smith, I genuinely believe you will come around to what I'm saying 100%. And it's like you're saying, you know, how do you enforce that? Well, I don't know, but we have to make an effort to do it because these guys know exactly how they're going to enforce their Islam on us. That's what they came here for. So, you know, it's like the spiritual battle is on. The new Christian war is, do we stick with God, despite the fact that we have to put our faith in God? We don't know how that works. Or do we put our faith in earthly things, politics, celebrities, and false religions and the left? I think we all know the answer to that.
Stick with God and we've won.
100%.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I've got to say, like, a few people in the chat have been kind of backbiting against Dave. I disagree with you. I mean, this is the first time I've ever experienced a chat with Dave Smith, but I find him to be a very intelligent, moralistic fellow. I like Dave, even though he's argued quite strenuously. This is a guy I will have an argument with again because I like what he has to say. So I think people in the comments, maybe you have a grudge against him, but if you're Christian, you should forgive him for whatever he's done against you so that you can be forgiven in the eyes of God. It's not like you've never upset anyone or said something wrong. Maybe you changed your mind 10 years ago. You were wrong.
They're definitely atheistic trolls.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes absolute sense.
They're definitely trolls, 100%. Guys, I really appreciate talking to you. I have to go. Sorry, I apologize, but yeah, I appreciate talking to you. It's always good to steel sharpens steel. It's always good to have these type of conversations. God bless you all. And now, Manny, thank you for having me on, but I've got to go. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
God bless.
Mate. Bye-bye. God bless.
Bye-bye, mate.
Good guy. I like David. Dave.
He is. He's a very nice man. I like him.
Yeah. And I think his comment about the people who are the atheist trolls in the chat, that's, I should have seen that coming because I used to be one of those atheist trolls and I didn't know I was a troll. I thought I was right. I thought I was totally truthful. And that was like 15 years ago nearly. And here I am now. So hopefully those atheist trolls will see the light and they will bow the knee to Jesus and become moralistic, upstanding citizens.
Nowadays, you only troll Islam.
Okay, gentlemen, any last thoughts or any last words before I close the stream down?
Yeah, I think the summary there is, although David was very vociferous in his opposition to me early on in the conversation, I think it was clear towards the end that he was empathizing with what I was saying and did actually pretty much agree with me. The only thing it's the same with Raj. All we disagreed on is how we're going to do it. So we know in theory we have to do it. Spiritually, we're agreed we will do it. Now we just have to figure out how that's going to happen. And that should be the premise of everybody's thinking. We know what we have to do. Let's find the courage and strength we need to do it in the correct way.
And there's a million different ways that people are thinking that's to be done. So we've got to try and work that out somehow.
There's a million ways to skin a cat. The leftists aren't going to like it because it's animal abuse. But, if the cat needs to be skinned, let's find some Chinese people. They've got experience.
I don't know how many podcasts I've been on now where I've been saying ban Islam, so it'd be wrong for me not to agree with you.
Well, think about it. 10 years ago, it would have been unthinkable to say that. Now, 30-40% of people you'll find agree with that, and 20% of them have read the Quran. So we have made progress. You know, it hasn't all been for nothing. And if you'd have said to me 3 years ago, do you think your crappy little channel doing Without Lies Islam Dies, reading the Quran is going to make a difference? I would have said, no, I'm just making a record of it for whoever wants it. But here we are 3 years later, and we're having this conversation with you guys here. You know, there's guys like Dr. J. Smith. Everyone who cares about Islam, wants to know Islam, check out Dr. J. Smith's channel, Islam Truth. Obviously, he's a Christian, so you can trust the guy's research is good. He'll show you all the evidence. He is the world's foremost expert in Islam. Even better than me.
Perfender Films. The channel's called Perfender Films. I think it's PFENDR Films. Is it damn close? They'll probably work.
Yeah, I mean, everyone should. It should be essential to at least watch one of his videos. If you do nothing else with your day, watch one of Dr. J's videos about Islam.
And is it Dan Shoebaker, the guy that worked out all the Muslim first century mosques? The Qibla was face Petra. Right,
Yeah,
he's a
I
good one.
think it was. Yeah, so they had to literally turn all their mosques to face east.
Yeah.
You know, the prayer thing to face east. Originally, they didn't use to face east. So even though they reckon in their Quran, oh yeah, they've always done that. It always faced east. No, it didn't. They've
No.
proven that. Most of
They've
the
not-
early ones, they still don't face east anyway.
Now the early ones, most of them they've knocked down, but you can still tell by the foundations.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, this is the thing. It doesn't come down to a point of religious practice. Like a lot of people will make this a religious fight. Is it Christianity that's better than atheism? Is it Islam that's better than Christianity? I think we lose sight of the practicalities. We live in a country with borders and laws, and the happiness and the kind of success of your life in this country as a citizen is dictated by how your neighbors behave. So if we have really, really solid laws, good enforcement, and a moral population, then you're going to enjoy life here a lot better, and you'll make more money, the economy will improve, and crime will go down. That is impossible if we let Islam continue its progress. We have to do something about Islam. And I think even Dave Smith was saying he agreed with that. It's just a case of how. So what we need to do, get our heads together, come up with a solution, how we're going to do this.
That's
And be
why it
courageous
was
enough to do
better.
it.
That's
Yeah.
why it was better 50 years ago. When I was growing up, it was safer. My dad and mum had more money. They did more things. We had more holidays. Everything was better. The world seemed safer. It probably wasn't. I'm thinking from a childhood memory. But the
Well, I
world
think the
seemed
world
to...
wasn't safer, but Britain was safer.
It was, yeah. But even when you went to these holiday resorts abroad, it was different than today. You go to Egypt today, you're going to find it a lot different to when you went there in the 80s. Right? The
Well, people don't know
world
about
seems
Egypt.
safer. Pardon?
Egypt's entire economy is based on European holidays. So even though they would like very much to not have us go there, financially they can't afford not to have us go there because their whole economy would collapse without people going on holiday to Sharm el Sheikh or, you know, the pyramids or whatever, Giza. But I mean, in terms of their Islamic faith, when the holiday season's off, they're not very fond of us. So I think, you know, do we want that kind of attitude prevalent here in our country? No, we don't. And like you said, 50 years ago, when it was completely absent, it was better. And the economy was better. People were happier. So we just need to be sensible about going back to the things that work, but doing it in a progressive sort of future-facing way. And I think that as long as we are guided by scripture and we keep these discussions going, then we can't go far wrong. That's the problem with Islam. Islam wants to shut the conversation down and ride over us with the Quran without the discussion happening. And we need to make sure that does not happen.
Well, luckily, I've heard that Starmer's on about doing a U-turn when it comes to these blasphemy laws. We'll see how that plays out, innit?
Oh, yeah, he's been handily defeated, but he'll keep trying. I don't even think he'll last the term. You know, how long's he been in? 9 months or something? You know, I don't know how long he's been in. He'll be out of here before the end of his 4 years.
How's he not out
So whoever's
already?
paying him to make these terrible decisions, he'll be off to live in Afghanistan or, you know, Azerbaijan or... Where's Tony Blair living these days?
I think he's on his way to Gaza, and didn't Trump make him some sort of
Yeah, they were
diplomat for
talking about
Gaza?
it.
How
he
terrifying
was-
is that?
Well, after he left here, he resigned as the prime minister here, he moved to Azerbaijan or Georgia or somewhere like that, and he was a weapons dealer. So officially for their government, he was their interior minister, but he's basically a government mafia for Azerbaijan.
Call me
So that's
old-fashioned.
what's going to happen with Starmer. He's already got like a private contract going that he's going to go to when his job here ends. I
Yeah.
don't know why
Call
anyone
me out.
trusted him in the first place.
Call me old-fashioned, but the last thing we need is Tony Blair living so close to the Temple Mount.
Oh, you know what? I rarely say this because I try not to judge people based on their appearance, but doesn't Tony Blair just have like an evil witch in his eye? He has like witch eyes. He has evil red, like alcoholic witch eyes. He
Yeah.
just looks like he's going to be an evil bad guy, doesn't he?
Yeah. There's nothing about Tony Blair that looks like sweet old granddad, is there?
Yeah, no, that's it. I wouldn't want to leave my kids with him. No way. He looks psycho. And I never say that. He's just one of those rare people that's got a very unsettling face.
Did you ever read the article in the Sun, which quoted Sherry Blair, his wife, and they quoted her saying that every morning Tony Blair wakes up and she's woken up by him, wakes up possessed by the spirit of the light bearer, and he flops around on all fours in the bedroom.
I heard that.
I've not heard that.
I have. I heard that.
Dear God, is that actually true?
Yeah, I heard that.
What a psychotic guy! Oh my!
And they're going to be back, and they're going to be putting him so close to the Temple Mount at a time where the Jews want to build the third temple. It almost sounds like they're sticking the Antichrist ready to go in it.
I think they're trying to manufacture something prophetic there, aren't they? If that's all true, they are trying to put something together there, aren't they? So
Definitely, but either way,
Yeah,
soon as that
well,
temple stands, that's prophecy. That prophecy's in that book, like you said earlier. They're not going to be able to stop it because it's prophesied. That temple has got to stand for the man of sin to reveal himself.
but are we sure that that's actually the real one? You know, it's like the red heifer thing. Someone bred genetic red heifers in Texas and then bust them over to Israel. And for a while they were going, oh, these are the red heifers. And then they were like, actually, no, these are genetically modified red heifers. They're not the real
But
ones.
it's still the third temple to be built on the Temple Mount. And that's what's prophesied. Even if we look at it as a fake, I don't know, promotion to Israel tourism, right? It's still the third temple to be built on the Temple Mount. It's still going to have sacrifice in it. They're still going to be sacrificing. God doesn't want sacrifice anymore. God isn't going to like it. It's still prophesied that that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I'm not completely shut off to the idea of that being a thing, but I would need to have some. I would need some serious convincing to. The thing is, I could move to Israel now, buy a plot of land, and start building a temple.
But not on the Temple Mount.
Necessarily that I am the third temple builder guy from the Bible prophecy. That's what I
But-
mean. It's like I know there is a Bible prophecy of the third temple being filled and producing this man of sin, but I'm not convinced that these guys are that. I think they're trying to model themselves to be that, but don't know
think
whether they are that.
I think where the big one is on that one is you wouldn't be able to build your temple on the Temple Mount. And the other big problem they've got is the Dome of the Rock, the Golden Dome. It sits literally, if you look at pictures of the floor of the Golden Dome, the rock, right? It's kind of like a indented cave. And in there, there's a square indent. Well, that is where the Ark of the Covenant sits. So surely the Golden Dome has got to come down for the Holy of Holies. Right, they've got all the furniture, they've got the Ark of the Covenant, the priests are practicing sacrifice, right? They've got
Do
the
they
plans.
have the real Ark of the Covenant though? That's another thing. I don't know whether they've got the real actual Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah,
say
they have.
it.
They have.
Is it the real
Right.
one?
It all depends, right? if you watch a man called Ron Wyatt, he discovered the Ark of the Covenant in 1981, right? They literally covered him up, right? He made so many discoveries, they tried to airbrush him out of history, right? I made, I don't know how many years ago, it's got to be 2 years ago, I made a live stream on this subject, right? And it shows you him under the Temple Mount. It shows you him digging under. It shows you what he did to find the Ark of the Covenant. It also has prominent MPs of Israel being asked questions by the press and the media. And one of the reporters says, so what are you going to do if you build the temple? What are you going to do about the Ark of the Covenant? Right? Because you don't know where it is. And this prominent Israeli MP stands up and says, don't worry about the Ark of the Covenant. We know where it is, and we've known where it is for a very long time. Right? Let's be honest. There's one that they've been trying to tell us is the real Ark of the Covenant sitting in Ethiopia, in that chapel that they changed the roof on not long ago. Right? The real one, though, is the one that they tried to cover up with Ron Wyatt. Right? Ron Wyatt is the same guy who discovered... Oh, there goes my dog. Ron Wyatt is the same guy who discovered the ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? He also found the real Mount Sinai. Right? He discovered so many things. It's unreal. Right? But the Ark of the Covenant one was meant... He was told when he discovered it, right? He was told by the Israeli officials, right, that he wasn't allowed to go public with his discovery until after it gets revealed, and they bring out the mark of the beast system. Right? He was told that. There's a documentary from the early 80s where he explains all this. He held up a photograph of him stood next to the Israeli MP at the time, right, shaking hands with him. That same MP says he was never in Israel, right? He's there, and he's there saying, look, I've got the evidence I was, and he's showing it all. Right? They've had the Ark of the Covenant.
Wyatt guy, like I gotta say, I haven't really come into contact with him. I've heard his name. I thought he was a YouTuber like from the last sort of 10 years.
No, Ron Wyatt died in the year 2000, right?
Okay.
He discovered Jeremiah's grotto. He discovered the crossholes, 3 crossholes, right, that was still there, all on video, right? He went and tested the formation in between the peaks of Mount Sinai. Is it the peaks of Mount Sinai, which they think's the Ark of the Covenant? He went and did all the not the Ark of the Covenant, Noah's Ark. He went and did all the original research for that. Right, I'll send you some links. Right, you have a look. Right, you have a look at the work this man did. There's a bit though when he's explaining the discovery of the Ark of the Covenant. Right, he's talking to you, and this man's soul opens up to you. Right, there's tears running down his face when he's explaining how he had a supernatural, godly experience. Right, and that was the minute for me when I looked at him and I thought, this man's telling the truth. Right, I'll send you the links to him, and it'd be interesting to see what you make of him.
Yeah, okay. Then I've got to say, I mean, the more esoteric stuff, I tend to, not like I stay away from it. It just isn't really on my radar. Like I'm a more practical Christian, but definitely have a look at it. And yeah, I mean, like I say, it's difficult for me to comment really on that because I'm just really ignorant about it. But I'll have a look at the links.
In all honesty, he was 100% biblical. Everything he did was biblical. There wasn't one false teaching. In fact, he was stricter than me because he was a Sabbath believer, where obviously like 99% of Christians, we're not. But honestly, when it comes to the man as a biblical scholar, he's pretty amazing. Even Kent Ovid, he knew him. Right, they were friends. Right, he talks about him, and he says he believes 100% what Ron Wyatt said he found.
Yeah, I got to say, Kent Honvid's a little bit of a gangster. I was quite pleased with that playlist you sent me with all those videos. And a lot of it is stuff that, as a Christian, you kind of take for granted. But when you're faced with the lecture of it, it's like, well, this is something you should stand on. This is something
Yeah.
you shouldn't let people disagree with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate you sending me that.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll do
yeah,
the same. I'll do the same with Ron Wyatt.
Yeah, Ron White, I'll have a look at. Is he the guy who discovered like golden wheels in the Dead Sea or something like that? And
That's
they
the
turned out
one.
to-
He found the
Yeah,
he found the
turned out not
chariot
to be
wheels.
real.
Pardon?
That's the only reason I remember Ron White. The golden wheels thing turned out to be like not real. And
That's wrong, because
Well,
there's since
no,
Ron
but
Wyatt's died. One
let
second.
me just tell
Since
you why I thought that the fake
Go on.
thing was legit, because gold is a very, very soft metal. If you submerge it in salt water, it basically dissolves within like a decade. So for those golden wheels to be in the water for that amount of time with that amount of densely packed salt, because it's one of the saltiest seas you're going to find, there would be no chance that gold would survive. So they would find wheels, but only the bronze part would have survived.
it was
So
in the
fact
Red
is,
Sea.
they said they found gold wheels, and I saw a picture of it. In the picture they had like gleaming gold wheels, and I thought that wouldn't happen.
It was the Red Sea. He found them in the Red Sea, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
And to be honest, right, the gold could have well easily have degraded off them, right? Because since Ron Wyatt found them, there's been quite a lot of divers gone under there and they filmed them, right? And you can tell they're chariot wheels. You can count the spokes on them, and the spokes on the chariot wheels, right, line up perfectly with the Roman dynasty of the Exodus. I believe there's a six-wheel chariot, six-spoke chariot wheel down there, and I believe that was only used at that time, right? But you can't see any detail on them because they've turned into corals, right? And there's all crustaceans grown completely on them. You can still see they was chariot wheels, right? But they'd become life sources to nature.
yeah. Well, I mean, like I say, I'm kind of ignorant on this. That someone showed me it. It was some years ago, but I remember being shown an article and it had a picture of some golden wheels, and the supposition was these golden wheels prove that Ron Wyatt made this great discovery. And then there was another article put alongside it saying this proves that Ron Wyatt made up this discovery, and it had this whole thing about how the wheels had like a composition of bronze, tin, gold, and something else, some alloy of all these different metals. And they say if they expose that to seawater, it's because it's soft metal alloy, it dissolves. And then there was evidence that this was the case, that it would dissolve. So what they were saying was the photo provided as evidence with the gold wheels must be fake, because the gold wouldn't have survived in the water like that. And not that there was no wheels there at all, but that these weren't the gold wheels that Ron Wyatt had said they were. But like I say, I just literally saw that someone threw that in front of me, and not knowing anything about it, not knowing the guy, it just occurred to me that is probable that the gold wheels wouldn't have survived. Or at least if they had survived, somebody would have gone down there and stole the gold because it's valuable, and they would have taken it away.
See, there's a couple of ways I'll look at.
To look into it. I don't know the ins and outs of it.
See, there's a couple of ways I'll look at that. I've only ever seen ones that are covered in like crustaceans and stuff, where animals in the sea latched onto them over the years.
Yeah.
I've never seen a photo of a golden one or anything like that. And the other one
So hang
is
on, just for clarity, because I don't know, I'm just remembering off the top of my head. Are these wheels pure gold, or are they like wheels with gold put on them?
they'd be wooden wagon wheels with gold on them.
Yeah, so they're not actually pure gold then, all the way through.
No, it would have been it would have been like the main guy's chariot. It would have.
Yeah.
You imagine King Charles.
Yeah, it just occurs to me the royal family have had gold wheeled chariots for quite some time, but you don't actually make the whole wheel out of gold, because gold's a soft metal, so your wheels are going to get very deformed. What you do is you make a hard metal wheel, and then you put an alloy on the top of it with gold in it that makes it look gold. Then the gold doesn't just rub off or deform. So I mean, like you were saying earlier, people in the olden days, the Dark Ages, they weren't stupid. So if they're making wheels with gold on, what's the probability it's not going to be a solid gold wheel? It's going to be some sort of alloy on there or something like that.
Yeah. Totally agree.
This guy, blah, blah. Once again, the goalpost has changed. Bro, there is no goalposts. I even said, I'm just off the top of my head remembering an article brought before me by someone else years ago. So I'm saying, is it likely that anyone is going to have solid gold wheels? Like you said, so it's your goalpost that you put there. Now you're saying I'm moving your goalpost. Bro, it's your goalpost. You do what you want with it. I'm just making the point that if there's a wheel that's made of solid gold, it isn't going to be in use for very long. And if it's in the lying about in a pond somewhere, someone's going to steal it because it's gold. So if this is a true story, the probability is that this wheel is made of wood or bronze or iron or something else with an alloy with gold on it. That would be useful rather than a solid gold wheel, which would not be useful. So
Do you know, Corvid, this is the reason why I never read the chat. Right, they could have been slagging me off for the last 2 hours, and I'm totally oblivious to it.
well, I find that guys like him, he probably isn't like a bad guy, even though he's like, yeah, you're moving the goalpost. He's immediately aggressive towards me, and I've met the guy, but he probably truly believes that what he's saying is the truth. Like when I was an atheist, I truly believed that telling people God wasn't real was good for them. Okay, so that's why I was doing it. And now I know, even though at the time I thought I was doing good, I look back, I know I was doing evil. So maybe that's this guy. He doesn't realize what he's saying. In 10 years, he'd probably disagree with it. So that's the only reason I'm validating it. I don't want him to feel like I'm ignoring it or I'm not validating it because it's a secret conspiracy. I'm honestly answering it and saying, is it probable that a gold wheel in the water like that would survive for 1,000 years or more? No. Is it probable that the golden wheel wasn't actually solid gold, knowing that it was a chariot wheel and chariot wheel wouldn't survive if it was solid gold? Yes. So we're just using science and logic to figure out something we don't know about. But I think this guy, when he thinks about it tonight, he'll recognize, it's not, he's trying to make it some like deductive Sherlock Holmes argument. It's really not. We don't know enough to do that. We're just speculating on what is the likely thing. And the likelihood is a chariot wheel is not going to be made of a soft metal because it wouldn't last 5 minutes.
The way I look at it?
Its shape, it would flatten out as you were using it.
The way I look at it? It doesn't matter if God wanted to preserve it so that one day we knew it all happened and it was real, he'd preserve it.
Yeah, I suppose you can say that. If God wants to preserve a wheel, he'll preserve a wheel.
Yep. There's no conditions that God can't endure.
He did a Google and it contradicted you. Okay, well, Google is his God. Okay, that explains a lot. Okie doke. And soon he'll blah blah. Why don't you have you tried DeepSeek? You can upgrade your God from Google to DeepSeek. DeepSeek is better than Google, is what I hear, for false information that convinces you that it's actually legitimate and true. Rolling eyes. Well, they're for crack pipes, mate. Then your eyes will stay put, and you'll be able to read properly.
COVID.
I'm not insinuating that you're a crackhead at all. I was just joshing with you.
COVID. I used DeepSeek the other day and it told me how to fix a Stanton DJ mixer. I still don't know how to do it, so I had to give my stepdad to fix. But DeepSeek told me how to do it.
Did it do it accurately? Oh, you don't know because you didn't do it.
No, I wouldn't know. It was just lots of technical words that went way above my head. I ended up WhatsApping my mum saying, "Can Ken fix my mixer?" And she went, "Yes." So I took it to him.
Oh well, I hope your mixer does get fixed. That's
DeepSeek did say words. It said words, and I'll tell you why. It looked like it was telling the truth.
Yeah, I've got to say, my experience with ChatGPT is it's very useful for some things, but the things it's not useful for, it will not warn you. So it will give you something totally confidently and be 100% wrong, but it won't know that it's wrong. And actually, DeepSeek does this as well. Like I gave DeepSeek a photograph the other day. It was clearly AI generated and said, "Is this a real photograph?" And it gave me a big, long excuse list of why this was definitely a real photo. And I questioned it like must have been 15, 20 times. And it would not back down that this was a real photo. But if I showed you the photo, you immediately, with your human brain, know that this is not a real photo. So
Yeah, but
you know,
ChatGPT,
it obviously thought it was real because it was like 15 times telling me it was, but it clearly wasn't.
ChatGPT is a language model. It's not necessarily equipped to do that type of thing.
Yeah. I think what it was doing, it was indexing a website which has a AI generation checking tool. So it was asking this checking tool, is this a photo that's legitimate? And the checking tool was giving it the signal that it was. So it was going, yeah, definitely 100% is, and it just clearly wasn't.
Okay, gentlemen, I think I'm going to close the chat. That's live stream. Any final thoughts from my two amazing guests today?
You did that last time. That was our final thoughts. Look where that led us.
Yeah, also one last thing. God bless the audience. God bless everyone who participated in this panel, everyone in the live chat, even the people who come across belligerent, aggressive, or rude. Everyone will be reunited in grace with Christ at the end of time, apart from the people who really are just evil and don't deserve to be there. So let's look forward to that. God bless you all. Have a lovely evening, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one.
See you, mate.
Brilliant.
Thanks
See
for
you,
coming
mate.
on. Nice talking to you.
Yeah,
See ya.
cheers, mate. See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Jordan,
Hello, mate.
what do we have from you as you depart?
Right. I've got one last prayer to say before we go.
Okay,
Hold
mate.
on.
Fantastic.
And then I'm off, because to be honest, I've got Sandy over there holding back a cane Corsa that's been barking for the last 10 minutes. Somehow she's got her quiet for a second, but I've had my mic off, right? But she has got very loud. It's dinner time, you see. She knows she wants a dinner now.
Right. Okay,
so-
well, let's get on with it then you can sort your dogs out.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Heavenly Father, in these days of tribulation, our hope is fixed on you. When fear surrounds us, anchor our souls in your promise of redemption. Keep us in faith and love, looking forward with sure hope to your glorious return. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Jordan. It's been nice talking to you as well, listening to your points of view. And it's nice that you've been able to get a word in edgeways. Normally on the panel, we have some, how can we say, powerful voices that don't really leave enough seconds for anybody to join. But it was nice to have your input on various things today.
It becomes like a wrestling tag team sometimes, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, and that's my point. It's we need more and more people to come in, because otherwise, if it's the same voices over and over again, then there's no real new information coming.
No. Anyway, Manny, thank you as always for laying me on.
Nice having you on, and thank Sandy for controlling the dogs while you were on here, mate.
Thank you. See you soon, my man.
See you, mate.
ya.
Bye.
See you, brother. Bye-bye.
I thought today's panel was fantastic. I think we had good discussions. We certainly had a good debate between COVID and Dave, and great input and prayer from Jordan. So absolutely fantastic. I think we need to do more of these shows. Also, thank you to everybody who joined and commented, listened. Really appreciate your input. I'm just going to play an outro video now. Remember to hit the like on the way out. Doesn't cost you anything, but it does help with the algorithm. So thank you very much.